opportunity to step outside the familiarity of your lived experiences, make sense of the bigger picture and of the space that you occupy within it. I myself am inspired almost every single day by people who possess this understanding, who are committed every day to living with empathy, and possibly without ever knowing how impactful they have been. So let me share with you one more personal story. Decades ago, we were in a taxi rushing to get my then one-year-old daughter to surgery for a hand injury that she had suffered. And my wife and I were beside ourselves with anxiety. My daughter was throwing a tantrum, and the taxi driver clearly picked up on our anxious and tense state. "May I share an old saying with you?" he quietly asked us. And he said, if everyone's problems were like laundry hanging out to dry in an open field, and you had the opportunity to go out into that field and exchange your laundry, your problems, in other words, with anyone else's, you would still choose your own problems. And he paused and he just said quietly, "Don't worry, I'll get you there safe and sound and in time." And at that moment, it was precisely the perspective that I needed. The surgery was a success, and to this day, I look gratefully to that cab driver's wise act of comfort, a man who has no idea that he provided me with a view and a resilience that has helped me throughout my career to deal with the roller coaster ride of business fortunes. You will similarly have no difficulty in finding such inspirational people. You may look around this room and recognize a fellow student who stayed up with you all night to support you when life seemed overwhelming. A professor.
Meet Kurl-On Ortho Magic, the mattress with natural latex that works like magic. This IAOS certified mattress is made with natural latex, which prevents back pain and keeps your back rejuvenated. When technology meets magic, Ortho Magic happens. Your back's favorite companion. Because when back's happy, life's hula hula.
and that's really encouraging.
Yes, David, great to see 18 cars started in qualifying today. Unfortunately, we lost one due to an accident at the top of Rouge. It was very damp at that point, and yeah, Rafa Martinez there, very unfortunate with that car. But yeah, we have 17 cars on the grid. Really looking forward to this round here, this fantastic venue.
Now, let's get the admin out of the way in a second, because we have to factor in things like pit windows and compensation times. We'll come to that in a moment, because as we look at the pole position car of Josh Mason and Sam Nessa, this is a car that's had a race win already this season. And down on the grid is Alexandra Legui. She has found Sam Nessa for a quick word before we go racing.
A very positive Greystone lockout, P1 and P2. And I'm here with Sam. Were you locked in straight away, or... I mean, it's a bit of a precarious circuit, isn't it? But how's the car feeling?
Yeah, the car's been feeling good, to be fair. It's hard to know what to expect, obviously coming to a track we've never raced at before, and especially getting to grips with it when the track's wet and as precarious as it has been. Can't take all the credit, obviously, because Josh was in the car for qualifying where it's needed, not racing.
Circuit like Spa?
Well, I think it's essential to always have a clear head, because you don't want to get carried away. And I think that's always that's something I've always kept in mind, is just keeping calm behind the wheel, because it's what you need to perform, really. You need to be able to think while you're driving.
Well, powers are on, gloves are off.
Sam Nessa, 2 years ago, was the Junior Fiesta champion, and the grid, encouragingly now, full of young drivers. Yes, there are some gentleman racers, but a lot of people now seeing McLaren Trophy Europe as a good way of launching a GT career. There, number 17 is the car that Jaden Kelly is going to start. 3 wins out of 4 races this year for the Greystone backed and run car, with Michael O'Brien as the second driver. And Tommy, these two, so evenly matched, are really hard to stop.
They've been really, really strong in the first 2 events this year, and once again on the front row there, beat by a great lap from Josh Mason, so another car really to watch out for. They're really going to need to fight very hard to keep the number 43 Greystone behind them. So we have a really great prospect for a fantastic race between those 2 cars especially.
Indeed so, and we've also got a quick combination lining up third, Sam Harrison and Leo Caravicili, who were really, really impressive when we saw the cars last. Let's hear from Leo with Alex.
Leo, very nicely done. You boys are at the sharp end, but you are behind 2 rather strong Greystone. What can you do from P3?
Oh, again, I think we want to make a move into turn 1, but starting behind both of Greystones, I've got a feeling they're going to be a bit of a wall there. Hopefully we can move up. We haven't had much running around Spa before. It's our first weekend.
2018 to 2022 was Leo Caravicili, competing in alpine skiing and the giant slalom and slalom. His dad was a ski instructor in France. He picked it up from there, but always wanted to go racing. So in 2022, he started in the Ginetta GT Academy with James Breckle's team, and then into the McLaren Trophy Europe this season. And he really did look impressive at Monza last time out.
Very much so, and obviously he's used to slippery surfaces with his skiing experience, and obviously a damp Spa is not going to be something that's going to phase him off. Hugely impressive performance from this young man, still young. Certainly to me, he's very young. But both of them, Samuel Harrison and Leonidas, they're doing a fantastic job, and yeah, he's one to watch again. Sure. That car for sure.
Let's go back to the grid. We're just having a bit of barrier repair work. That's why we're slightly delayed before the start of the race. But Kevin Rorschach took a race in at Monza. Let's hear from Kevin now with Alex.
Kevin, you're in a tricky position. However, you have a bit of a reputation for being very good in traffic and very good as a mid-pack climber. What are you boys feeling?
Yeah, Jens is a very experienced driver now behind the wheel, so we're looking forward to the start. I think we're in front of the AM class pack. We have some space to the back, so I think if he keeps out of trouble, I think everything will be fine.
Good, okay. And your strategy generally for this race?
Yeah, we push as hard as we can from start to finish, and let's see where we end up.
Perfect, that sounds like a very good strategy. Best of luck.
And another good sound that you've heard in the background is the 3-minute klaxon sounding. Right, Tommy, quickly, admin. There's push to pass, there are pit stop windows, there are pit stop times, there are compensation times. Go for it.
Yes, lots to think about, lots of maths to really work out, see what's going on. Obviously, success penalty, which is obviously if you win a race, you get 7 seconds added to your pit stop. Second place gets 5 seconds, third place gets 3 seconds. Easy. So from last event, obviously we have car 17 of Jaden Kelly and Michael O'Brien will get 7 seconds at the pit stop, car 12, the SMC car with 5 seconds, and car 90, which is the ALM Motorsport of Leonidas we just heard from. They will get 3 seconds on the pit stop. And obviously that goes through the Pro-Am and the AM class. We have a 72-second pit in to pit exit time that the cars obviously spend as they come in and out of the pits here at Spa, because you have added to those pit stop times.
Okay, now the pit window differs depending on which category you're in.
That's right. Yeah, so we have different pit window times, and they are the pit stop, and then on the M only class and the Pro only class is between 25 and 35 minutes. Those are the pit windows. Okay.
So that puts the emphasis in a Pro-Am car on the AM doing the work, rather than letting the Pro do all of it and the AM just taking the glory.
Very much so. So this is again a very AM-based series, and that's the rules reflect that for sure.
So, Trevor Williams, who is the race director for McLaren Trophy Europe, has given the signal that engines can be fired. The grid is to be cleared. The fans who've had a bit of a break while Lamborghinis have thrown themselves at the scenery are now ready to go back to race action. Tim Docker there lining up towards the rear of the grid. He is going to serve 5 seconds extra in the pit lane. The one car that we've lost, rather sadly, is 2. So real shame for one of the good characters of McLaren Racing. But isn't this a great sight to see a big grid and a biggest ever grid stretching down the F1 pit straight here at Spa?
It's awesome to see so many cars on the grid here, starting what is, for me, one of the best circuits in the world. It's just a phenomenal place to be racing. A little bit of damp patches here on the track, and some of these AM drivers will really have to focus very hard. And as Samuel Harris was saying there, up at the top of Rouge as well, it gets very sleepy, very greasy. And so these guys will be extremely focused right now. Yeah, it's not completely dry, but it looks like the weather's going to hold up. And yeah, hopefully a full dry track in 2 or 3 laps, maybe.
That's brave talk at Spa, Tommy.
There you go. Yeah, it is around here. It is for sure.
Yeah, true. You can tell Tommy's indoors, can't you? He doesn't have to face the elements like these drivers do. So we'll have a look at the grid. These are your start drivers. You don't have to have a co-driver, but most do. Josh Mason will start on pole position. He's also racing in the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa from tomorrow onwards. Alongside him is Jaden Kelly, ahead of Sam Harrison, and then Zach Meakin. You've got Will Aspin starting 5th alongside Jens Richter. Then Mikael Karlsson, the Swedish driver. Danny Henry, soloist, is going to be alongside him, starting 8th on the grid. He runs in the AM category. Starting 9th is Nick Halstead, who's been a double winner this season. Did drop into the gravel yesterday morning, but was okay and continues in the weekend. Bill Fenech alongside him, ahead of Eric Behrens, and then Ryan James. He is going to go from 12th on the grid. 13th, another welcome returning combination, in fact, Albert Jochems and Charles Voltzmann Jr. And alongside them will be the car that Klaus Halsig starts. Albert Jochems will start the Neiman Autosport car, Klaus Halsig alongside. Then you've got Fiona James starting in the car that she shares with Maurice Henry, Tim Docker on his own, and then Ron Trenker sharing with the ever-quick John Lancaster to round out the grid. And one of the beauties of double driver racing, of course, differing paces of a Pro and an AM means cars rise and fall in the order accordingly, depending on who's behind the wheel.
Yes, and so obviously at the pit stops and driver change, we'll see perhaps a lot of changes on the grid. But again, this is an AM-based series, and the AMs have to do that.
Through campus, past the college, and then up towards the Cours Paul Frere. The fans still in their waterproofs, but it is Spa after all, so it's probably a balmy day for Spa. Getting ready for what's going to be a 50-minute race. Race 1 of 2 of the weekend. Brands Hatch was our opening venue of the season, and the first time the championship had been there. Then Monza, and now to another legendary circuit.
It is, with a few damp patches. There'll be differences between the sides of the grid left, and so hopefully these guys get a good feel for it just now lining up on the grid. Again, you mentioned briefly about the push-to-pass buttons that we have in these cars. When you see the front sort of daylight LED lights flashing, you know that the driver is actually using the push-to-pass system, which is good for 300 seconds. And we have to obviously gauge that throughout the race. Here at Spa, you have a lot of full throttle. You've got to be careful how much you use.
It's true. A very different circuit from Brands Hatch, for example, where they first used it, because as you say here, it's a longer lap, 7 kilometres in length, plus you're on full throttle for so much of it. Right then, it's been a great season so far. More of the same to come. It is race 1 of the weekend in McLaren Trophy Europe. It's the 5th race of the season. It is Josh Mason on pole position. It is Jaden Kelly with him at the front of the grid. And as the green flag is shown at the back, it is go. Now the lights change. Good getaway by Josh Mason. Not a great start by Jaden Kelly, and that means that Sam Harrison gets the drop on him up into second place in the white car then as they head into La Source for the first time. An effort being made and contact because Jaden Kelly gets turned around, and that was Will Aspin on the inside, and a big hit, I'm afraid, with absolutely nowhere to go. Number 17, Jaden Kelly's car is hit very hard indeed. There's debris all over the racetrack. There's another one with huge front damage that is effectively out of the race. There's debris on the road, and I would rather fear this is going to be a safety car.
Yeah, very unfortunate start there for Jaden Kelly. He was already on the back foot at the start of the line, and was one of the SMC cars had contact with the car and spun it around. So really bad start there for the Kelly and Michael O'Brien car, unfortunately.
Absolutely, a lot of damage as well. So we're trying to work out which one it is that got involved, because as you saw, there was a car that really piled into the car of Jaden Kelly coming out of La Source. Down they come now towards the right-hander of Bruxelles, and a lot of weaving going on, almost as though a safety car has been called. But at the moment, we still have green flag notification on our screens. I think the safety car has been called, just given the way that the pace is slow, but we're still green on the timing screens, looking for a light panel. Yeah, boards are there. So safety car deployed, and that's not a big surprise. Danny Henry was the other driver involved in it. So Danny Henry was the one that got involved. There is the car, and that looks very second-hand, doesn't it? Big impact.
Yeah, I think it was just unfortunate for Danny there. He was just at the end of that. I think Will Aspin may have been involved with that as well at the start. Yeah, absolutely horrendous start there for the Kelly and O'Brien. Car was on the front row, but as you saw there, he was slow getting away from the grid, and that really put him on the back foot.
Well, it's going to make it interesting in the championship, isn't it? Because it's going to be no points for Jaden Kelly nor Michael O'Brien today. That is the rather shortened version of the McLaren being taken away, as a very frustrated Michael O'Brien knows that there's no drive and no points. Now, the safety car is going to go through the pit lane. Because of the debris at La Source on the track, rather than have people drive over it, they will use the pit lane as part of the racetrack. Good call that by Trevor Williams, the race director. So that gives the track workers a little bit more time, and it also means there's no chance, really, of any debris being picked up by the Pirelli tyre.
No, it also gives the drivers now on the car a perfect scenario in terms of getting used to where the damp areas are on track. They didn't have to do that in the first lap of the race, so it gives them a bit more time to see where they can or cannot push. Great start, by the way, by Sam Harrison. Once again, the ALM Motorsport car, they're really doing very well immediately.
And you can see not only is there debris, there is liquid as well. So quite understandably, bring the cars through the pit lane. They completely bypass that. So here they come down the pit road, and Josh Mason, good start, race leader, making his CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa and GT3 debut as well this weekend. So he's one of a number of drivers on double duty. Have a look at the start. So Jaden Kelly in the grey car on the right as you look, didn't get away well. Then have a look at Will Aspin up the inside. Here he comes because he makes a big dive. There is room, and then the gap closes, and he just tags the back of Jaden Kelly, and Danny Henry completely unsighted. That's quite a big impact for Danny Henry, who turns the corner, and he's about to accelerate, and here it comes, bang! Nothing he could do.
Yeah, just parked in the wrong place, really, Jaden Kelly's car there. Will Aspin's move there on the inside looked a little ambitious from this angle, but obviously, as always, we need to look at every angle afterwards, which I'm sure I'll be busy doing that.
Yes, we need to explain. Tommy is also the driving standards advisor. So he loved Brands Hatch because you were in the bar early, but that's going to keep you occupied, that one.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to be a sort of an early visit to the bar, this one. So that one alone will keep us busy. But such a shame to lose three cars, potentially even, before lap one.
Yeah, certainly two we've lost, and I just wonder whether Will Aspin's car has picked up any damage, but you can see the liquid. It's coolant, really, that's come out of the front of Danny Henry's car, and that is on the road, so that needs to be treated to make sure that the cars don't lose traction. The car of Jaden Kelly looks damaged, yes, but at least it's able to be towed away. So the track is clear pretty much of cars, but it's just now the debris and the liquid that needs sorting out as well. So that rather turns the race on its head, doesn't it?
It certainly does. It's on the positive side of things, as you said before, it does keep the championship a little bit open now with the Kelly car not scoring on this round one. And of course, the Greystone crew will be on to the number 43 car, and they have a good chance here. Certainly the pace of both Mason and Nasser are very, very strong. So they have a very good opportunity to grab some really good points.
And they don't have any extra time to serve in the pits. Now there is Will Aspin's car, and you can see the damage. It looks pretty much just cosmetic to my eye.
Can't see any fluid running from underneath, which is always a good sign, so it could be just cosmetic, and we'll see when it gets up to speed whether that bit of bodywork that's obviously, you know, killing some of the aero that comes in through the front of that car, whether that's going to be a problem, and indeed whether any sort of sharp parts might be near the tire, which could eventually cause the damage to the tire. So we'll keep an eye on that, see how that develops.
There's a sand pit, I think, being emptied onto the circuit at La Source. That's a lot of liquid to need all that amount of speedy dry to soak it all up. So the field then with the safety car driver Christopher Campbell at the front of the queue, the Belgian racer leading them round. Crikey. That's a lot of sand.
There's a lot of sand there, and that's right through the race line. As they come out of the apex of La Source, they will have to cross that, so they need to watch on the loud pedal that they don't, you know, get onto it too hard and lose traction. But again, the drivers have had an opportunity to go around the track now a couple of times. They have a good feel now for where the grip level is, and that at least will hopefully, you know, mean that we have two new opening laps without too much issue.
Well, yes. Once the La Source beach is sorted out, Marshall's busy sweeping the speedy dry into the liquid to soak it all up. But yes, it's going to be slippery for the first lap. So Will Aspin, or Waspin as he's often known, W. Aspin, certainly stung Jaden Kelly into that spin, and the lights are still on, of course, atop the safety car. So all of this nibbles into the race. 50 minutes we started with, 43 are on the clock, and the race order is Josh Mason leading Sam Harrison, and then Zach Meakin in third place. Zach also driving in the GT4 races. Let's have another look. So Jaden Kelly just bogged down a little. Wasn't a great launch, Tommy.
No, Jaden Kelly also didn't have the push to pass button. If you look, the first two cars were flashing, meaning they used the push to pass. Jaden Kelly didn't, and that's what set him back. And of course, Will Aspin there on the inside, making contact with his right rear. And unfortunately, Denny Herring there just had a car right in front of him at the apex. So, or after the apex. Very unfortunate incident. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a sudden stop for Danny Henry, wasn't it? You could hear the bang, and I think the rear wheels lifted off the ground. So Will Aspin just tags Jaden Kelly's car. Danny Henry, totally innocent. I mean, there's just nothing the guy could do.
No, I think he was trying to stop, and just not enough grip level or brake level that particular sin. Why wasn't the push to pass button activated? Was it an issue with it, or he just decided to not use it at the start? Because that really did set him back.
It did indeed. So the fluid is still being treated. You saw that super slow-mo of the safety car observer with his window out of the window saying, go right, go into the pit lane. Michael O'Brien then becomes a spectator. His car is out of the race. Big frustration for Michael. He can talk about it with Alex.
Oh, it must be very, very frustrating standing here in the pits knowing that you're not going to get behind that wheel. It was a bit of a sitting duck there, wasn't he?
Yeah, it was. It's hard to see exactly what happened from the TV, but obviously off the start, everyone bunched up at the hairpin, and we got tagged. I haven't really seen it that much yet. Got turned around and then collected on the outside. So not ideal, not the best start, and yeah, just a big shame.
And what sort of information have you heard back via the radios?
Not too much so far, to be fair. Jaden's okay. The car looks pretty worse for wear, so I think now the biggest challenge is just going to be getting it ready for qualifying later on.
And how do you process that as a driver? Like, is it just a case of shrug it off and get on with it?
Yeah, I think right now it has to be. I'm a little bit frustrated, if I'm honest, but otherwise, yeah, you just have to process it, get over it, and move on quickly. That's the key, I think.
Part of the game, right? Yeah. Bad luck.
Double driver racing, you know, it must be very tempting to blame your co-driver either for a bad start or getting involved in an incident, but that's never going to help the relationship if you want to progress and work well together. You kind of have to take it on the chin and accept that okay, it's his fault, in quotes, today. It could be yours next time, and just deal with it?
I think always, until you get all the facts and you look at the situation, then it's very premature to actually say what happened there. There could have been an issue, unlikely, but it could have been a technical issue where he couldn't engage the push-to-pass button, or maybe there was a strategy if they planned not to do that. Whatever happened, I mean, those two guys are two pros. They are doing fantastically well in this championship. They've had a bad luck on this race, but they'll fight back very soon.
So here, more of the cement dust being put down. Danny Henry's car, of course, has limped all the way up towards the top of Radiant, so the only way you can get this done now is just to drop the sand on the liquid and hope now, I think, when we do go racing, that people avoid it. I think if you ask marshals to sweep all of that, it will be here until Tuesday.
It's not a good case, especially as the AMs, or certainly on the Pro-Am side of the championship, the AM drivers are in the cars right now.
Yeah.
And that is a very difficult situation to gauge in terms of grip level now. Now, they've done a few laps. They know that it's not wet around the track, but now we've got this added obstacle, really, in the way of the sand all over the track. So they really need to tread carefully in the first opening laps.
So as the drivers await their turn, we also await further news as to whether the safety car is going to be in imminently or not. Of course, safety paramount, so nobody wants to take any chances. I mentioned that beach at La Source. Apparently it's now going to be renamed La Plage rather than La Source, so
okay.
Corner names evolve as well. Slippery surface flag, no kidding, is being presented to the drivers, and that will be as they come over the timing line. So the bulk of the circuit is okay. It's just that one section that's pretty slippery. The lights are still on atop the safety car. There is Sam Nasser awaiting his turn. And the AMs frustrated perhaps that they can't go racing right now. They're having to follow the safety car like this.
Yes, unfortunately, the slippery side of the surface is just before you get into Eau Rouge. So they will coat their tyres with all that slippery stuff, and then they have to get through Eau Rouge with that. So a real challenge here, especially for the AM drivers, when this race does get underway again.
So we've had about 12 minutes, give or take, as the cars come into the chicane, and this time around are going to go through La Source. So now they will be able to have a run behind the safety car, but through the sand, through the slipperiness. So this is the first opportunity they've had to assess a different part of the racetrack, and now to experience what that is like. They'll see the sand, they'll see the fact that the marshals have been working, and so one passing, maybe two through that to let them experience it, to have a look where it is. They can choose a line. You are capable of driving around it, aren't you, by the look of it?
Well, you are flying there. Normally you would exit a little bit later after the apex, which means you would then cross over that line. So clearly the drivers saw the sand on the ground and decided to go around the outside. Once they're actually racing up to speed, they won't be able to take such a slow line around it. And in fact, as I was saying, they would then coat their tires with all of that sand. And guess what? The next corner is Eau Rouge. So, I mean, it's going to be action, that's for sure. And let's hope that they all get through it safely.
Well, indeed, I suspect the AMs will be respectful, won't they? Because the safety car will be in this lap. We are going to go back to racing. The AMs are not going to perhaps push it in the same way that a pro would and have the experience or the bravery to counter any drama. The AMs will be gentle, will be more cautious to begin with. Having said all of that, we're not exclusively AMs. You know, you've got a lot of good silver drivers like Josh Mason, Sam Harrison, Zach Meakin, Will Aspin, all up at the pointy end of the field. So they're going to push.
Absolutely. Absolutely, these guys will push. I mean, it's going to be different for all of them, and of course, the pro drivers have a bit more experience over, different types of conditions and that kind of. So I think you'll see the AM drivers a little bit more on the cautious side. But yeah, once they go through a couple of times, they'll understand what the grip level is, and we're back racing again.
Absolutely right. You just saw Ryan James going through the shot. There he is. He's leading his class. Ryan James in number 22 in the Pro-Am entry with Ollie Webb. So we have pros, we have pro-ams, and we have AMs. And having mentioned Ryan James, Ollie Webb is waiting for the restart of this race in the pit lane, and while he is waiting for the restart, he can have a quick chat with Alex.
Ollie, that was a bit of a wild start to the race, but you boys seem to have kept out of mischief so far.
Yeah, Ryan had a great start. Real shame for Jaden. I think that could have been avoided, so real shame there, but it's eating into a bit of their track time for the AMs. For us, it's horrible for our strategy. We have a 10-second penalty after the double win in Monza, so we needed Ryan to build a gap, and unfortunately we're all going to pit together, so it's going to put us, I think, last when we come out the pits. So it's going to make for an exciting last stint. But hopefully they get a few laps racing now the safety car's coming in.
What's the name of the sponsor on your car? Apex?
Apex.
Apex.
It is spelled Apex, but we pronounce it
Tell us more.
So it's to do with autonomous racing, and behind the scenes we're working alongside a couple of manufacturers which are soon to be announced. At the moment I'm still in the car, but racing against other cars, racing against humans eventually, that will be self-driven and human-driven together.
And how much involvement have you got then in that?
Well, it's kind of all the brainchild of Ryan James and the Apex crew, which are both stateside in the UK, and I'm the fancy crash test dummy at the moment. That's all I am.
I look forward to seeing how that progresses. Good, back to the action. Thank you, Ollie.
Thanks, Alex. Right, we're ready to go racing again, everybody, with just under 35 of the 50 minutes on the clock now. That point that Ollie Webb makes about it throwing the strategy in the air for many of the teams is a valid one. Let's get them over the line. Let's get them out of La Plage, first of all, and see how they fare. Down to the hairpin at La Source they go then. It is in the lead, Josh Mason, Sam Harrison going after him. Not a great restart by Zach Meakin, who's a couple of lengths back, but now they're about to encounter the slippery part of the circuit, and the tails wag, and that's going to spear cars out wide. So far, so good. Everybody has controlled it. Push to pass being used as Josh Mason leads the way, and look for third. You've got them side by side now as Will Aspin comes up to have a go at Zach Meakin. You can tell Will Aspin's car, it's the Cyclops version with one headlight smashed. He stays fourth, but it's nose to tail for the lead, Tommy.
Yes, very good start there. These guys at the front being careful through that sandy bit, and they all got through. I can't see the rest of the pack there. I'm hoping that they've gone through Eau Rouge. Obviously, first lap in anger through Eau Rouge, and they all seem to be safe into La Combe there, fighting for the lead. Losing the lead is Josh Mason.
Yeah, Sam Harrison round the outside. That was brave stuff, wasn't it? Sam Harrison right round the outside. Sometimes in the damp there's a bit more grip to be found. Josh Mason runs it wide up the curb, and straight away is coming under attack now. Zach Meakin in the first of those Gulf liveried cars right on his tail. Zach Meakin very quick through Bruxelles, almost into the back of Josh Mason. So Sam Harrison, in only his second race weekend in these cars, didn't do the Brands Hatch races, not only got the lead round the outside, but he's pulling away.
He's been looking racing from the word go, really. Almost got the lead at the start. Unfortunately, we had that incident, but he stayed focused, and there he is in the lead of the race.
So Sam Harrison, the man from Ripon in North Yorkshire, student of aeronautical engineering at Loughborough University, he leads the way, and chasing after him is Josh Mason. That in third place, number 68, is Zach Meakin in the car that he shares with Harry Burgoyne, and behind him is the battered car of Will Aspin. And look at the gap these four have pulled already. This is the first restart lap, and they're way up the road.
Yes, and good to see that Aspin staying with the pace at the front, even though he's got that damage at the front end of the car. So clearly that lack of aero at the front isn't really hindering him too much.
Yeah, true enough. Battle on for second place then, but this is a mighty effort by Sam Harrison, who came from historic Formula Ford and Formula 2000 and Formula 3 historic racing into modern GT style cars this year. Down to the chicane he comes, but that has been a mighty lap to get the lead, to pull away, and there's just nothing seemingly that Josh Mason can do. Right now he is going to be focused on keeping Zach Meakin behind him rather than trying to go after the race leader. Here they come then, with another 2 minutes and 20 or so on the clock before we need to worry about pit stops. So over the timing line, Sam Harrison has the lead by 1.6 seconds. That's a really good effort ahead of Josh Mason, Zach Meakin, Will Aspin, and then in fifth place it is Mikael Karlsson, but he's already dropped 3 seconds to the leading group. There he is.
And out of the top three guys, none of them have success penalty. So it's a clean race on the top three there without any success penalty at the stops. So we'll see what happens. I mean, the car 12, which is Aspin, in fourth place, he needs to pick up some pace because he's got 5 seconds to serve.
Yeah, Harrison's got 3 seconds, hasn't he, the race leader, Sam Harrison? So
you're right,
he does.
Yes.
It's the least amount of compensation penalty,
yes.
But he still would like a 3-second cushion. Now, this is for 7th place, where you've got Ryan James ahead of Nick Halstead, ahead of Eric Behrens, and this is also for the lead of Pro-Am. Nick Halstead, double winner at Brands Hatch, splitting his time between this and the British Touring Car Championship. He also got on the podium in the GT class of the Le Mans Cup second race at the 24 Hours this year, so he's having a busy season and goes well in these cars, with behind him Eric Behrens, very experienced driver, and Ryan James fending them off. What he would like really is for Halstead and Behrens to get busy battling for second, and he can drive away.
Well, that's kind of happening, but Ryan is still doing a good job there, doing the defensive job really he needs to do, but it's a good battle there for the class.
Very definitely. Eric Berens dropping off the back a little bit. And Nick Halstead, who was a British GT Championship race winner here going back 3 seasons, looking for a way past Ryan James down towards Pont. And even if he can't find a way through, he might be able to unsettle him. But actually, Nick Halstead is the one that goes a bit wide into the second part of Pont. He's wide up the curb. OK, he comes out closer to James, but Berens is closer to the pair of them. Now Nick Halstead tries the outside line into the pit path. This is brave. Does it work? Very, very nearly. James on the inside line for the run down towards the right-hander at Le Col. To the outside line is Halstead, and he's done it. Nick Halstead around the outside. Excellent move.
Great racing there from Halstead, still on a high from his success at Le Mans. He was shared with Brad Ellis in the Road to Le Mans race, supporting race 24-hour, and actually finished, I think, second on the grid in GT3. So obviously that's done a world of good there for his confidence.
And Eric Berens comes out to have a go at Ryan James as well. This is really rather bad news for Ryan James and Ollie Webb. As Ollie was saying, they've got 10 seconds of success time to serve in the pit. And again, a bit like we saw for the outright lead, the pro lead, once that change happens, the car pulls away. So Nick Halstead, having gained the advantage, has already checked out by the end of the lap.
He has, but you have to say, a couple of corners there, I noticed Halstead was off the track on track limits, so certainly coming out of Pouhon,
okay,
and just at Blanchimont as well, so he needs to watch his track limit lives. He's using a few of them at the moment.
Yeah, he is rather, as they come then now up over the timing line once again. Pit window is open. As yet, no takers, so the AMs trying to exploit their time behind the wheel. Meanwhile, Sam Harrison still leads Josh Mason now by 2 seconds. Sam Harrison has done the fastest lap of the race as well. Here, heading up towards the Les Combes sequence of corners, you've got Mikael Karlsson just ahead of Jens Richter, and then behind them is the battle for 7th place. There's a big move being made there, look, by Eric Berens in the black and gold car on the outside line of Ryan James in the red version. Up they come towards Les Combes, brake hard, turn in, and Eric Berens has done it. So Ryan James gets shuffled back in the queue to 3rd in class, and that's really bad news now.
Yes, 2 positions there in 2 laps for Ryan James, but he needs to just stay focused and keep putting the laps in, give the car back in the pits to Ollie, and I'm sure Ollie will unleash his magic there on track when he gets behind the wheel.
Yeah, he'd quite like a second stint safety car, wouldn't he, Ollie Webb, to bunch them all up again, but we'll see.
I'm sure he's doing that little safety car dance right now.
Doing some voodoo on somebody, yeah. Right, Nick Halstead then, leading, but I wonder whether Eric Berens might get close enough to him before they elect to pit, because Berens is flying. So is this man, Sam Harrison, although Josh Mason behind him, a little bit quicker in the first sector of this lap. There is Sam Harrison then, trying to escape up the road. Like his co-driver, another former skier, before taking up karting and then going into car racing and making that switch from historic racing with limited amounts of aero and grip. Very, very close to the edge was Josh Mason in the background. You just saw some of the spray being kicked up as he ran wide towards the grass. So Josh Mason is pressing on, no question about it. Behind him is Zach Meakin, and then Will Aspin 4th is dropping away a little bit now, suggesting that maybe that car is not 100% understandably after the knock that it took. And Aspin indeed is the first one to bail for the pit lane. So down the pit road he comes. Will Aspin is going to give way to Alejandro Gapet. Last year's champion, Alejandro Gapet, who's had a tough season, really. It's been a bit up and down, mechanical dramas and lack of pace in one race at Brands Hatch. So we'll see what can be done now, bearing in mind the car is already the best part of 10 seconds back, and they have to serve 5 seconds in the pit lane.
Yes, that's right, and that will cost him a lot. 5 seconds, very difficult to make up on track. Josh Mason there on a very quick lap, actually, on this one. Not quite the fastest, but only by hundreds. Harrison obviously purple down on 23.5, but Josh Mason now back to speed. First couple of laps of his race weren't too good. He lost a lot of track time, but now he's on the same pace as the leader.
Rather undignified exit from the car for Mikael Karlsson as Robin Knudsen gets ready to take over. So Mikael Karlsson kind of falls out of the car. Different co-driver, of course, this weekend. Robin Knudsen taking over from Lucas Sundal. So first time that Robin Knudsen has raced one of these, and he's got to play himself in.
Yes, and of course Sundal is still on the grid, but with a different co-driver, which is Eric Berens.
That's
and,
right,
so a bit of musical chairs there, but I think they're all happy, they're all racing, and that's what counts.
Yeah, Eric Berens started the year with Ashley Marshall, didn't he? But they had mechanical maladies at Monza. So as Sam Nesser gets ready, he's watching the pit stops, he's watching all the data available. We're watching the battle for leadership now in Pro-Am, where Nick Halstead is being caught definitely by Eric Berens. Robin Knudsen gets ready to go. And Nick Halstead coming under attack then as he drops downhill out of Speaker's Corner. Behind him, you've got that black and gold car of Eric Behrens. Ryan James, he's lost a massive amount of time in about 2 laps. I just wonder whether all is well with that car.
Yeah, I was wondering the same, because his pace is normally very strong at the front. So we'll find out later on, I'm sure, what's going on with the number 22 car.
Mikael Carlson, you saw a moment ago, go back to 1991. He was racing in Formula Opel Lotus single-seaters, but now very much a GT racer. They're coming out of Blanchimont way up the curb. Is that race leader, Sam Harrison? Got to be careful about doing things like that.
Yeah, but I've watched that. The last lap around that same corner was exactly the same. Sam was driving very, very well. He got that track limit to a fine art there, so he's right on the edge of it, but he's not going over.
Out of the chicane, another lap in the book. Same for Josh Mason, same for Zach Meakin. So those 3 staying out. Now there, look, is Alejandro Gapet going back up the pit lane. Last time around, Josh Mason, fastest lap of the race. So the lead gap down a little bit now to 1.8 seconds. Away back into the race goes the number 12 entry of Gapet. And now Robin Knudsen will go onto the circuit in number 48. So that is Gapet. Got the damage. Now he has to find out how the car feels, what the track feels like, but also go flat out and try and catch back up to that leading trio. There over the line is Nick Halstead. Behind him is Eric Behrens, and the gap between those two now is about 0.6 of a second, just slightly over 0.6 as Behrens goes through the hairpin at La Source. They're all still steering clear of the bulk of the beach at La Source, aren't they? Not much of that has been ground in. There you've got Kevin Rorschach getting ready to take over his car when we get to the pit stop window. And more of the teams ready there. Look in the Formula 1 top pits. Fiona James, in the meantime, involved in a battle, and just ahead is Ron Trenker. There's Fiona James in the yellow-nosed car. Fiona, the lady that runs Valero Racewear, and a great enthusiast of GT racing. We've seen her in GT4 and in Britcar. Pit stop now for 33. That is another newcomer, Bill Fenech, who hands over to former champion of Brands Formula Ford racer Chris Hall, the Brit, who's based in the States these days, also in his 78 Tim Docker. And he is a soloist, so he will stay behind the wheel.
Yes, like Danny Henry, Tim doesn't like to share his car.
No.
And does all the racing on his own. Loves the racing here in Europe, and yeah, a regular contender there.
Big battle there. Fiona James having a look at the inside to try to find a way past Ron Trenker. Didn't work, so it remains Trenker ahead for the moment at any rate. This is for 10th and 11th overall. Fiona James thinks about the inside line. Look down to Brussels, but no way through there. Ron Trenker's car into the top 10. I know we've got a few pit stops shuffling the order, but that was last on the grid, so it's been a good step up through the order.
Good climb there by Trenker, yes. And Fiona actually almost 6-7 tenths faster than Trenker, so she just needs to find a way around, and maybe she has.
Up the inside, coming down towards Pouin, Ron Trenker gives racing room to Fiona James. Nicely done. So through goes the Speedworks Race Lab entry as the top 2, top 3 come into the pit lane now. So Sam Harrison to give way to Leo Caravicili. Then behind Josh Mason will give way to Sam Nesser, and you've also got Zach Meakin to morph into Harry Burgoyne. So here they come down the pit road, top 3. So remember, a longer stop for number 90, the lead car, because that has to serve an extra 3 seconds compared to the other 2. This could also be resolved fairly shortly with pit stops. Nick Halstead versus Eric Behrens into the chicane. Both will stay out for another lap.
Yes, and when the number 90 car came into pits, he only had a 1.5 second lead to Josh Mason. So with 3 seconds added, they should, well, if the maths are right, they will lose the lead to the number 43 car. But we'll see how the teams work in the pits as well. They have a part to play in this. And yeah, be interesting to see what happens after the pit stops.
Certainly will. Downhill they plunge then. Race leaders having completed 9 laps coming into the pits last time. It feels like it's been a busy pit stop race because pit stops are shown as 3 for a lot of the teams, but that includes 2 laps driving down the pit lane behind the safety car. So every time you trigger the pit in beam, that counts as a pit stop, in quotes, even though it's just a regulation stop being served. Here then, Behrens is getting ever more committed. He wants to lead the class before he has to vacate the car. Up towards Les Combes, Nick Halstead doing a good job here. Rides the curb a little bit, so that might give Eric Behrens an opportunity to challenge the other side of the corner. Away goes Caravicili then. And there, coming towards us, it's still Nick Halstead ahead, but only just. Eric Behrens is giving him a huge thing to think about now. Nose to tail into Brussels, and you can see how Behrens has been quicker over those previous laps.
Yes, but very evenly matched. It's only about 2 or 3 tenths between these two in the last few laps. So and that's the reason why they're running together. But the pit stops could have a difference on that.
Bill Fenech and Chris Hall's car, number 33, which is an AM entry, is being given a 40-second time penalty for not pitting in the correct window. So that's an admin error really on the part of the team to have that car called in, you would suggest. So disappointment then. They were on the 5th row of the grid, and it's a Greystone GT entry, so I'm surprised that's happened.
Yes, I mean, again, you never know what happened there. Perhaps he was called in, and or there was a radio issue, or but yeah, whatever happens, they missed the window, and the rules are rules, and you've got 40 seconds. It seems a harsh penalty, 40 seconds, but
yeah. But if you're stopping early and giving your quicker driver more time, then it's an advantage, isn't it?
It is a huge advantage. Depends.
Yeah, 40 seconds might negate it. Well, on track, it's all been a shuffling, because there, look now, it is Sam Nesser ahead of Harry Burgoyne, ahead of Leo Caravicili. So the lead car, with the extra time served in the pits, falls to 3rd place. It wasn't an error necessarily. It was the extra 3 seconds of compensation time that had to be served. There is Tim Docker back into the race. Nick Halstead and Eric Behrens were nose to tail on the track. They're nose to tail in the pit lane.
So no pressure there, but that's down to the teams now in terms of pit work. Let's see who comes out ahead.
Door opening there. Look as the next pit stop cycles through. 28 it is. Jens Richter to give way to Kevin Rohrscheid. Good to see some new names coming into the series as well. There, Bradley Ellis stands ready to jump on board. British GT champion. He is going to take over from Klaus Halsig, as here down the pit lane is the Halsig car, and tucked up behind him is Albert Jochems, who will give way to Charles Zoltzman Jr.
Yes, Albert and Charles, they are returnees. Really, they were racing last year, but they haven't raced at all this year, so this is their first race in 2025, and great to see him back in the series.
Nick Halstead then will help to strap Tom Holland into the car. So Sam Nesser trying to build a lead right now. Leo Caravicili, interestingly, is not seeming to be able to do very much about the two ahead, is he? Got the push to pass there, the extra boost, trying to catch up, but time lost in the stops and not easy to claw it back. Right, Tom Holland is aboard number 40. So this is a very different situation for the race lead. And right now, Sam Nesser is a long way up the road, isn't he?
Yes, the 43 car now with that that advantage they had before, but Nasser has a lot of pace, just like Mason, so they're still in it, in very good chance till they get to the flag.
Absolutely right. So here again comes the lead car, Sam Nesson out the wheel. It was a good opening stint by Josh Mason, keeping the car in the mix. They had honours in that first race at Monza. Missed out in the second, but therefore came here without any extra time to serve in the pits. So, Nesser from Burgoyne, from Caravicili is how we run within the top 3, and it is round about 4.6 seconds covering the top 3, but we're about to have a change for second place. Look, because Caravicili has done it, he's gone through on the inside, heading up the Kemmel Straight into Les Combes. So Caravicili now feeling a bit more confident in the car, makes his move against Burgoyne, who fights back, gets crowded up the curb coming out of Les Combes, and Caravicili sticks out his elbows, moves right across in front of Burgoyne to cover off the inside line. All of this is playing into the hands of Sam Nesser, who's escaping because these two are holding each other up.
Yes, and of course Burgoyne using the push to pass, and Caravicili was not. So that's why he's all over the back of Caravicili, but still not able to get through.
Kevin Rohrscheid aboard, number 28, 40-second penalty for a late pit stop. Meanwhile, battle is still well and truly joined here, side by side, almost into point. On the inside line in the white car, it is Leo Caravicili. In the Gulf colours, it's Harry Burgoyne, moving from GB4 into McLaren's this season, and now looking to try to make a move on the outside line as the cars power up towards the pith path. No way through there. So Leo Caravicili, who we heard from on the grid, just hanging on to the place. But yes, he worked hard to get through. He's going to have to work even harder to fend off that car. He needs to get away somehow and stop Sam Nesser driving away into the distance with 16.5 minutes, give or take, on the clock.
Still a lot of racing to go, 16 minutes, lots going to happen. But once again, Caravicili now using his push to pass quite wisely there, coming on to towards Blanchimont, you know, full throttle all the way through there, and he has a little bit of a breathing room there on Burgoyne.
But Sam Nesser has just disappeared. He's not even in the same camera frame anymore. This is for second and third in real terms, but Sam Nesser with a mighty advantage. There he is, building that, and he's benefited on this lap from the squabbles behind him. So now there you've got Leo Caravicili up into second place. Harry Burgoyne third, just falling back ever so slightly as they come then now up over the timing line. Down now into La Source once again. So Sam Nesser has done 11 laps. He leads by now 5.6 seconds from Caravicili. Burgoyne is third. There in fourth place is Alejandro Gapet. And then in fifth place now it is Robin Knudsen in the white car here coming into La Source. So those two possibly to get themselves together. 2.6 seconds the margin. And there, look, is now Lucas Sundal in number 88. He's taken over from Eric Behrens and has also vaulted ahead of the car of Tom Holland, Nick Halstead in the pit. So as they come across the line, that should put 88 up into the lead. It does, of the Pro-Am class now.
Yeah, so that's a new pairing there with Behrens and Sundal in the number 88 car, obviously paying dividends there for this race. Nesser and Caravicili first and second there. Nesser with a 25-0 last lap against 26-0 for Caravicili. So obviously Caravicili there fighting with Burgoyne, lost a full second to Nesser, and you have to say the number 43 car now with a 5.5 second gap. It's not done deal, but it's a good cushion to have at this stage.
It is indeed, as Maurice Henry there gets ahead of Tim Docker coming into the chicane. Maurice Henry taking over from Fiona James, heading up towards the line, breaks the beam, goes through. So Maurice Henry, another driver that's come out of the Ginetta Junior ranks in the UK, goes down towards La Source. Tim Docker next in the queue. Then you've got John Lancaster to keep an eye on as he is hustling Ron Trenker's car up the order. And also in the mix will be Bradley Ellis, another driver to keep an eye on, having taken over from Klaus Halsig. Number 28, though, there is Kevin Rawshide. He's got this penalty to have added on at the end of the race. How's Ollie Webb doing? He's 9th overall, make that 8th overall, because he's now jumped ahead of Rawshide on the track, irrespective of the penalty. And another penalty is coming, and it's for John Lancaster. A 22nd time penalty for being short on the pit stop.
Yeah.
Down to the car controller, isn't it, with the stopwatch?
Yeah, these pit stops, they have to be timed obviously to perfection. You know, I think obviously teams are trying to get as quick as they can on the stopwatch to get out of the pits quickly. But yeah, if you even half a second off, penalties coming your way.
So Sam Nesser goes across the line, still chased by Leo Caravicili, and the gap between them is now, gosh, 5.9 seconds. And last time around, Nesser was slightly quicker by about 0.3. Still building that lead then. There going over the line is Alejandro Gapet, and getting a replay here of Lucas Sundal launching himself into the chicane. It's a great shot, that super slow-mo, but engineers hate it, don't they?
Yes, unfortunately, as drivers, I understand you have to use them to go quick around the track. And Lucas is a pro driver. He's obviously trying to maximize his speed there. He's leading the class and doing a great job.
Over the line goes Lucas Sundal, class leader. Now we've got a new fastest lap of the race. It is from Lucas Sundal. So this is, in Pro-Am, a class leader, but the fastest man on track now. Lucas Sundal perhaps feeling that now he can show what he's capable of. So accelerating downhill, and multiple Carrera Cup Scandinavia champion. He's won it, what, 5, 6 times. Massively experienced and successful GT type driver, switching to a different brand for this year. And right now, Lucas Sundal is flying, no question about it. Making that run now up towards Les Combes. He's got the road to himself, so having worked his way past Tom Holland, just checked out.
Very impressive performance there with that lap time at the end. Perhaps the team manager will forgive him for that curb usage now, and with that purple lap time.
Yeah, absolutely. Best lap of the race, and he might even be able to get up with some of the pros and humble them before the very end, which is 11 3/4 minutes away. Downhill then drops Lucas Sundal out of Speaker's Corner, uses the curb on exit with 2 of the wheels, which is all fine. That's within the regulations. Still the odd damp patch on the road there down towards Pouin, even though it's a fairly warm day. It's not much wind, so therefore the road isn't drying as quickly as it might on other occasions. This is the race leader, Sam Nesser. who you've got to say has been an absolute revelation in this championship this year, because he's still in his late teens, but thrown to all of these new venues in a really powerful car. Boy, has he delivered.
They have both delivered, both Josh Mason and Sam Nasser. What a pairing, really. Two young lads, and especially Nasser, very, very young. And the pace and the composure, really, the way they drive the cars. Yeah, fantastic performance, and really deserving to lead the race today.
There is Alejandro Gapet. Another curb hopper behind is Robin Knudsen, but I think Knudsen's catching, isn't he? He looks better in the sectors. So as they come across the line, last time the margin between them was about 3 seconds. It's down to 1.5 seconds. So, yeah, Robin Knudsen has brought down that gap, and you can see how hard he's been trying, launching himself over that sausage curb into the chicane. It's clearly the Scandinavian line, isn't it? We saw Lucas Sundal bouncing over the curb, and now exactly the same thing from Robin Knudsen, with just over 10 minutes on the clock.
It certainly works for them, and Knudsen there 3/10 faster than the guy in front, Pat Romero, who's no slouch, very, very quick driver. Maybe that damage at the front of the car is costing them a little bit, to be fair. Yeah, great job by Knudsen there.
Absolutely right. Heading uphill again then, Alejandro Gapet in the SMC car. As a team, they've really had a tougher season this year. Perhaps you could argue that other teams have moved on and really improved, but they've also had a few dramas with either mechanical issues or one race, I think it was the Meakin car, that didn't even start. So they've had a tough season by their high standards. You can see there the debris, the damage flapping around in the breeze. Now, what's going on for second and third? I would suggest that Burgoyne is coming back at Caravicili here.
Yeah, but look at Sundal. Look at his lap time. Incredible pace by Lucas Sundal on a 22.8. No one has actually gone into a very low 23, and he's just popped a 22.8 there. So Sundal, very impressive in the number 88 Alfa car.
So there's Burgoyne. He runs third. The one sort of black sheep of the family, in a sense, for having not raced on the ovals. He escaped from the family dynasty of stock car racing, whether it's been in saloon stock cars or Formula 2 Brisker Formula 2 stock cars or mini stocks. So there's another offshoot of the family in stock rods, the supposedly non-contact 1400 hot rod formula, but very much circuit racing. Karting and circuit racing was Harry Burgoyne's way of establishing a career. Now this battle is Maurice Henry in the yellow and white car, and up the inside, about to go through and relieve him of the place, is John Lancaster. That's for 12th. Lancaster does it, but bear in mind that he's got this 20-second time penalty to be added on at the end for the short pit stop. So it's kind of out of his hands, really. John Lancaster just has to push, but it might be a forlorn hope. Getting away by 20 seconds in 8.5 minutes is quite a big ask.
It is a big ask, but good to see Maurice Henry there on track. These guys with Fiona James as well, Sherry and Fiona James, they've had a tough season and almost inside the top 10 there, P12 at the moment, but yeah, good to see the car going around, and not bad pace as well. Maurice Henry there did a 25.0, I think, yeah. So getting to grips with the car. They're probably, of the crews this year, they're the ones that done probably least amount of laps.
Yeah, I think you're right. Sam Nesser here, though, just out on his own, leading now by 7.5 seconds. So unless he makes a mistake, he's pretty much home and dry. But in the background this time, Leo Caravicili looks like he's regrouped and he's starting to rebuild that gap over Harry Burgoyne. But there's just nothing that he can do about Sam Nesser, even allowing for the fact that there was a 3-second extra pit stop to serve. It's still a big gap that Sam Nesser has opened up, isn't it?
He has, yes. Again, Nesser is being like clockwork, really very consistent. And this pace is faster than Caravicili last lap by nearly 7/10. But I'm still, again, very impressed by Lucas Sundal's pace. A lap after lap, he's now done a 22.4. The guy is flying.
He is indeed. Lucas Sundal might yet get up onto the back of Robin Knudsen. That might be a tall order, but he's certainly charging. Here, using all of that extra push-to-pass power, is second place Leo Caravicili, trying not only to get away from this man, Harry Burgoyne, but also to get up onto the tail of Sam Nesser, coming now out of Pouen, and once again towards the pith path. So Caravicili a little bit frustrated, I think. I don't think it was an overly long pit stop. They may have lost a second or so on top of the 3, but the biggest problem for Caravicili is Sam Nesser's really impressive pace. Further back, battles are still on. Here, coming uphill, is Kevin Rorschach. He's another one that's got a penalty to be applied post-race, and Rorschach is now coming under attack from Maurice Henry. we've not really seen very much of Maurice this year because sadly Fiona James has been caught up in other people's incidents early on. But when he goes, Maurice Henry goes really well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great. As I said earlier, great to see that car really doing laps. That's what they lack the most. And you know, Maurice has been a very promising driver. Came through the Ginetta school, I guess, and done very well. So yeah, good to see these guys back on track. And let's hope they have a solid result today and even better tomorrow.
Absolutely right. Now here is the fight for fourth place. There, look, is Robin Knutsen, who's almost on the back of Alejandro Gapet, then the reigning champion in the battered car in fourth place. Here, having his first outing of the season, Robin Knutsen behind, so new to McLaren Trophy, but driving like a veteran as he comes up now towards the line, goes through once again. Now down towards La Source. This is the scene of the lap 1 dramas that triggered the safety car, but the McShark car out of the hairpin, plunging downhill, keeping away from the sand, the speedy dry, and the clock ticking on down to just over 5.5 more minutes. Sam Nesser leading by 7.3 seconds. Last time around, that lead gap came down slightly.
Yeah, I think Nesser there in the lead with a solid gap there. I think he's just managing that very, very well. But Bourgogne has been faster than Caravasali in the last couple of laps. They've got equal lap times on the last one, but he's been inching into Caravasali's position in second place.
Absolutely right. So Nesser, Caravasali, Bourgogne, the top three. Gapet here fourth, Knutsen here fifth. They're all in that pro class. Lucas Sundal is catching Knutsen, but he won't get there in time, but he's on target for a class win. But Sam Nesser, not to take anything away from Josh Mason, has just been mighty. Second that car was when he took it over. He came out in front, well done team, but then he's built the gap and has not put a wheel wrong.
Absolutely, great to see as well. We were frankly hoping for this car to be, putting a good fight against the Jaden Kelly, Michael O'Brien car. Unfortunately, we didn't see that, but can't wait for tomorrow's race to see those two cars back on the grid against each other. But you've got to say, Josh Mason did a fantastic job in qualifying, against a very fast Jaden Kelly. He beat Jaden Kelly fair and square in a damn qualifying session, and here is Nesser doing the job in the race.
Absolutely right. Here he comes then out of the Cours Paul Frere, and still Sam Nesser, look, has some push to pass left. He's got nothing to pass, but he's using it to try to pull away and build the gap. So coming up now out of Blanchimont, he's up the curb. He accelerates again down towards the chicane, formerly the bus stop chicane, but its configuration now means that there's nothing like a bus stop. Even the signage has gone about that. So it's purely a chicane. He comes out the other side of it and accelerates towards the timing line. So Sam Nesser will go through with just under 4 minutes on the clock. He's got time for 2 more laps.
And just to mention here to Charles Schwartzman, who is just purple the first sector. Charles Schwartzman obviously pairs with Albert Joachim, and they just come back for this one race, having not raced at all this year. This is the first race of the year, and Charles showing what a pro he is. Very fast there on the first sector, and his best lap only a few tenths away from the overall fastest lap of the race. So very impressive comeback from Charles Schwartzman and Albert Joachim.
Yeah, Charles Schwartzman, who raced Formula 3, raced IndyCar very briefly, and single-seaters in the States, raced at Le Mans a few years ago. There is Lucas Sundal then. That's your Pro-Am class leader, and it's also the driver who is the fastest man out there. Fastest lap of the race set by Sundal on lap 14. We've now done 16 laps, as here Kevin Rawshide comes into the chicane, and he in turn is being chased very hard indeed. He's got a penalty though, don't forget. So as he comes up, sorry, it's not Kevin Rawshide, I'll tell you a lie. 42 it is, which means it's Charles Voltzmann. Bradley Ellis is behind him. So Voltzmann goes through the Neiman Autosport car, fourth in his class, but Bradley Ellis bearing down on him. Despite the fact that Voltzmann did a very good first sector, he had to go defensive in the second and the third, so that cost him a bit of time.
Yeah, so Voltzmann obviously pushing very hard. He's on the track limit warning as well, but certainly the pace is strong, and yeah, he needs to watch it.
Uphill here comes Bradley Ellis looking for 9th place before the end. The lights flash. That's not to worry the driver in front necessarily. It might have that benefit, but it's to prove that he's using that push to pass. Lucas Sundal, fastest man on track, has just done a purple, absolute best therefore first sector on this lap. As you look at Bradley Ellis working his way up through Les Cons. And just ahead of him is Charles Voltzmann. So you've got two very experienced sports car and GT campaigners here. They're starting to battle for their AMs to try and get the best result they can in class. Ollie Webb is ahead on the road of Voltzmann. So Sundal from Tom Holland, from Ollie Webb, Charles Voltzmann, Bradley Ellis, the top 5 in the Pro-Am category.
And Ellis a couple of tenths faster than Schwartzman on the last lap there, so he is definitely inching into it.
He is indeed, as you look here at Alejandro Gapet, making his way now into that fast, long left of Blanchimont. Turns through the corner and now accelerates on down towards the chicane, heading into the right and then left flicks. The race leader has gone on to his last lap then now, so Sam Nesser has gone by 7.1 seconds clear. In second place it remains Leo Caravasili, in third place it is Harry Burgoyne, and then here is fourth and fifth. But Sam Nesser on his last lap, another win heading for the Greystone GT team. Tim Docker is up the road. He might actually inherit a class win, Tim Docker. We need to keep an eye on this because the two ahead of him in AM have both got penalties of 40 seconds for one and 20 seconds for another. So we'll keep an eye to it. Meanwhile, Sam Nesser, very, very good drive. A second win of the season beckons. And although he clips the curb there, he has just been a standout driver in this race.
Fantastic, absolutely. Driver of the day, if you ask me. A solid, solid performance all the way through. And I'm not even sure he's 18 years old yet. I think he's 17.
Depressing,
so, yeah, I think he gets other people to drive him to go to places at the moment. But anyway, fantastic performance by these two. And I can't wait to see the battle for the second half of the season. As we finish this race today, we actually reached the halfway point into the season, believe it or not. And yeah, what a prospect now for this car, number 43, Josh Mason and Sam Nesser, to take the fight up against the Michael O'Brien, Jaden Kelly car that we've felt was going to be dominant throughout the season. So we have a real championship in our hands.
Really exciting, isn't it? As you say, halfway point battle on here. Tom Holland under attack for second in Pro-Am. Ollie Webb has caught up, as you might anticipate, given Ollie's huge amount of experience. So we have here Sam Nesser on his final lap. The clock has got to 0, so the flag will greet him this time around. And he comes then now up through the long, fast right. Still, Sam Nesser with some of the extra push to pass to use. There's no benefit to using it, but he might as well because it makes the car go even faster.
I think he's trying to get fastest lap there, but I don't think he will quite make it. But yeah, impressive again to see that they've got a bit at the end. They haven't used all of it yet. So yeah, absolute dominant performance and a well-deserved win there for the Greystone number 43 car.
Out of the chicane then comes Sam Nesser. It's a second win of the season in McLaren Trophy Europe for Sam Nesser and Josh Mason. Across the line goes the Greystone GT car. In second place it's going to be Leo Caravasili sharing with Sam Harrison that led early on, and third goes the way of Harry Burgoyne, bringing home the car that he shares with Zach Meakin. A very happy Josh Mason walks off the pit wall. If you think about McLaren's and success, well, go back to 1995, a kind of anniversary year, given that we're in 2025. It was a McLaren win at Le Mans. It was also the first McLaren win in the then BPR GT series. One of the engineers on the winning car of Ray Bellm and Maurizio Sandro Sala was one Jeff Kingston, who's engineered the winning car today. Now, you might think it's impossible for a man so young in his looks, but trust me, he's 17 and a half now, Jeff Kingston. So his CV is a long and illustrious one. Over the line goes Ollie Webb to finish second in class. He got that second away from Tom Holland on the last lap in Pro-Am. A class win, though, for Lucas Sundal. We'll apply the penalties post-race once everybody's across the line, and then we'll have a result. But you've got to say, after all the talk early on about how well Sam Harrison was going, Sam Nesser proved to be an absolute star, as here number 80, John Lancaster, heads through the chicane, but he also will have a penalty to be put on at the end.
Yeah, it's great to see those two cars there at the top, Nesser and Caravasali. New crews to the championship this year and performing incredibly well, both of them. Well, both cars.
Indeed so. This is Maurice Henry, who is going to finish in 12th place on the road in the Speedworks Race Lab entry. Goes through, and a good drive by Maurice Henry. So he will be ahead of John Lancaster because of the penalty that's applied to number 80 for the wrong pit stop time. So a second win of the year for Sam Nesser and Josh Mason. That's going to help them in the championship. It's kind of not going to help, though, for tomorrow, because they will pick up the maximum success penalty going into tomorrow's race. But it's going to make it interesting. And, of course, the second race has a standalone qualifying session, which we've not yet had. So Danny Henry, Michael O'Brien, particularly, hoping that the damage is not too great, because they need the cars to be good for Q2.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, obviously, being here at the 24-hour of Spa, it means the schedule is very tight, so hopefully the teams will get enough time to get it ready for qualifying.
Indeed so. Well, let's celebrate a win in the meantime for Josh Mason and Sam Nesser from Sam Harrison and Leo Caravicoli. Then you've got Zach Meakin and Harry Burgoyne for third, ahead of Mikael Karlsson and Robin Knudsen. It is Will Aspin fifth, although he was involved in that first corner tangle. Alejandro Gapet relayed him. Eric Behrens and Lucas Sundal sixth, and winning their class from Ryan James and Ollie Webb. Then 8th and 3rd in Pro-Am, Nick Halstead and Tom Holland ahead of Albert Jochems and Charles Voltzmann. Welcome back. 5th in Pro-Am, Klaus Halsig and Brad Ellis. On the road, it was Jens Richter and Kevin Rorscheid winning in Am. Tim Docker ending up 2nd, the penalty for Chris Hall and Bill Fenech dropping them to 3rd and last within the Ams. We lost, of course, Jaden Kelly and Danny Henry with their contretemps at La Source on the opening lap. So Josh Mason and Sam Nesser winners for the 2nd time this season, and the Greystone GT car, another mighty effort. One of the best drilled teams in the championship. They've been involved in McLaren Trophy Europe right from the launch of the championship, and so being able to use all of that experience to very good effect. So drivers will be whisked towards the podium very shortly. As Tommy says, it's a tight timetable at Spa. There's a GT2 race not far away, so the teams for that are going to be heading to the circuit pretty shortly. But the Pro, the Pro-Am and the Am podiums to come. Sam Nesser there with Josh Mason, who's going to be racing in the 24 hours, for which there is the warm-up session at the end of the day, the Super Pole for the fastest 20 qualifiers today, although they didn't get into that. But Josh was quickest in his class in his isolated qualifying session, so showing good GT3 pace. First time out in a GT3 spec car in anger. So there he is, helmet off. Sam Nesser drops his gloves on the floor. Josh, ever the gentleman, picks them up. Former single-seater racer. Sam Harrison there talking to Leo Caravicoli. And there the Happy Greystone crew can start the celebrations very shortly. Sam Harrison, Leo Caravicoli discuss their race. But Sam Nesser and Josh Mason come out on top. Will Aspin there in the background, but our race winners take a 2nd victory of the season. Sam Nesser and Josh Mason are with Alex Legui.
Boys, come here, Sam. My goodness me, that was a masterclass in winning in a McLaren around Spa. Firstly, let's start with you. That was brilliant off the line, and you kept out of mischief, considering the chaos that was going on around and behind you.
No, exactly. Again, it was just getting off the line, which we did. But actually, on the safety car restart, I made a little mistake, so the ALM car got past. But no, I think for us, it was just to stay consistent and be within that 3-second window, because I knew they had a penalty for the pit stop. But no, Sam did a really good job to bring it home, and yeah, just another win in our pockets.
Very nicely done and set up, yes, very nicely for you. My goodness me, what a drive. I think you ended up sort of 5 seconds ahead. At what point do you get to relax and aware that you're finishing on top, or is it just foot to the floor the whole way?
To be first few laps, it's kind of like, bang a few good laps out, build the gap up. And then as soon as the gap got to about 7 seconds, I knew that I could just be careful and just bring it home and just make sure that we don't, obviously you don't want to lob off the last corner. Yeah. And yeah, last few laps you can kind of come down to about 85% and just cruise your way home.
Brilliant, well done, really, really well done.
Very good effort. 2nd win of the season for Josh Mason and for Sam Nesser. There's Klaus Halsig talking to Bradley Ellis with the rather interesting livery on the side. Oh, that's what he said. We need to investigate all of this, I think, for race 2, don't we? A look at the highlights of race 1 at Spa of McLaren Trophy Europe. A good getaway offline for Josh Mason, put him into the lead ahead of Sam Harrison. Jaden Kelly tardy out of the blocks, and then to add to the woes, he was tagged by Will Aspin that turned him around, and Danny Henry found himself with nowhere to go. A very sudden stop, 2 badly damaged cars, safety car called, others scattered in avoidance. From another angle you could see being tagged around Jaden Kelly, and Danny Henry just completely unsighted until the last split second. A big impact, and as he drove away, coolant pouring out of the front of the car. That meant that the marshals needed to go onto the circuit and try and put all of that cement dust down to soak up the liquid. We went back racing with Josh Mason ahead of Sam Harrison, but it wasn't long before Sam was able to wriggle her way through and then actually build quite an interesting gap before the pit stop window. Some hard racing, and this is how he got the race lead. Round the outside, going up towards Les Cons. By the end of the lap, he built the gap, and it looked as though that car was on target for honours, as Ryan James was starting to struggle a bit in Pro-Am and falling back in the pack. Nick Halstead with a brave move round the outside, coming down to Les Cons, went through and was able to secure the place, but when Tom Holland got into the car, it dropped back a little bit in class. Another good battle was raging on as bouncing wide, coming downhill with number 90 Leo Caravasili trying to hang on to second place. Fastest lap went to this car, Lucas Sundal, launching himself up the curb, but it was a race win for Josh Mason and Sam Nesso as the car came through the chicane on target for a second success of the season, with Ollie Webb getting second in Pro-Am on the last lap with a really brave move around the outside coming out of Bruxelles. That translated to the inside for Speaker's Corner. Job done. Brave stuff. Checkered flag, though, to Josh Mason and Sam Nesso, a second win of the season. And there's going to be more to come from McLaren Trophy Europe at Spa-Francorchamps tomorrow. We've had the halfway point of the season, and now it's getting really interesting in the title race.
There's no shortage of drama when it comes to chip making. Even when you're winning, the game changes. Do you ever feel like you're running a race that just never stops?
Oh, of course. Of course, absolutely. That's exactly what we're doing. I'm running like a different company every few years. Like the industry is changing that fast. The technology that we're building is changing that fast. It's a fantastic race, though, because each race is different. It's like a different movie, but it's a more exciting movie each time.
Today is a really big day. Lisa Su, the CEO of Advanced Micro Devices, likes to be in the driver's seat. Born in Taiwan and raised in New York with a passion for electrical engineering and 3 degrees from MIT, Su worked at a couple of big-name chip makers before clinching a big victory, transforming AMD from a failing chip company into a formidable force in gaming, PCs, and the cloud. She's quick to remind us that her secret weapon is an obsession with the tech itself.
Coming to AMD,
her no-nonsense approach probably helps too. I've heard you don't take from anyone.
Who's told you that?
Seriously, I've heard you're tough as nails, and I'm sure you have to be.
Well, I like to win, if that's okay. I would tell people I was doing semiconductors, and they would say, what? Like, what's that? Like, you build chips? Like, what does that mean? People didn't even understand, like, where technology really fit in the grand scheme of things. Like, now, everybody knows. Like, everybody talks about chips.
Chips rule just about everything around us. It's one of the most ubiquitous and consequential technologies in the world. They power your smartphones, cars, planes, power grids, the internet, the global economy, and even Formula One races, where AMD sponsors the Mercedes-AMG Petronas team.
I think the adaptability that you need to have in this sport is similar to a high-performance, real-world company. The technology develops, and that's why it's so much fun. And what I love is the stopwatch never lies.
Chips are at the heart of a global technology race and a battle for supremacy between China and the United States. So for the AMD CEO, the heat is on. She's in the middle of a race of her own, pulling off the impossible by surpassing arch-rival Intel, only to find that AI has completely changed the game, and now NVIDIA is in the lead. I'm in awe.
Hello, hello.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for coming.
So the first thing we did when we got here is we went to your lab and your engineers made us this chip. Wow. It's our own chip. The circuit on a circuit.
This is our epic with the circuit with Emily Chang.
You've been CEO of AMD for 10 years. You've been working in the chip industry for decades. But I want to go back to a moment. When did you first hear that you were going to be CEO of AMD?
It's a phone call you get from your chairman of the board, and he said, Lisa, can you talk? I'm like, sure. And he goes, "It's time." And I'm like, "Time for what?" He said, the board has made a decision and they would like you to be the next CEO. I said, "Okay."
Well, how did that feel? Because it was a tough time. AMD was trading at $2 a share. One guy said it was deader than dead. What made you think you could prove them wrong?
The opportunity to be CEO of AMD it was truly like a dream come true. It's like, wow, okay. Like you think that maybe you can do this? And here you're going to have the opportunity to lead a major semiconductor company on, yes, you're right, it wasn't the best time, but I was pretty confident that we had the right pieces. They just needed to be put together in the right way.
AMD was founded
that you refer to these machines as your children?
They're all my kids, yes. So if you were to actually step into my library at home, you would see chips galore, because every time I launch a chip, like I save that as a souvenir. And there's no favorite, although I have to say, this one has gone a long way, so.
Shh, don't say it too loudly.
In this new race to deliver the best chips for AI, Sue is focused on catching up to NVIDIA. A niche player that got its start in the 90s making chips for computer graphics and video games, NVIDIA realized early on that its GPUs could be pivotal for AI, and suddenly blew past its competitors when ChatGPT came on the scene. NVIDIA's chips are the hot commodity for Meta, Google, and Amazon, sending its stock through the roof and besting Apple as the most valuable company in the world.
NVIDIA is seen as the dominant force in AI right now, and AMD is widely considered the next best option. Is that good enough for you? Do you like being seen as the underdog?
I wouldn't call it a like or dislike. What I would say is, AMD has had a history of doing amazing things. And from that standpoint, we've always been in this place where we haven't necessarily had the same amount of people that other larger companies have, but we've certainly punched well above our weight in terms of technology capability, in terms of impact on the industry.
This is the most complex, highest performance computer.
People are kind of obsessed with the fact that you and Jensen are distant cousins. I know that you are competitors, but do you ever trade notes?
Well, first of all, Jensen is brilliant, so I fully admire him for that. We were really distant, so we didn't grow up together. We actually met at an industry event, so it wasn't until we were well into our careers.
So no family dinners, just to put the rumor to rest.
No family dinners, and it's an interesting coincidence.
So many of your customers are building their own chips. Hyperscalers like Apple and Meta and Google and Microsoft and Amazon. Is that a threat?
This is a huge market, Emily. There's like more than enough chips for everybody to build. And the beauty of this is everyone's recognized that chips are so important. Yes, so it's natural that they're going to have their own capability.
Has the shakeup of a very established industry surprised even you?
It has a little bit, I have to say. When you think about this conversation about the resiliency of the world depending on, semiconductor diversification, like those kinds of things, they're big things. They're beyond an industry. They're really sort of underpinning sort of the global economy, underpinning national security. It is something that, for someone who's been in semiconductors for a long time, it's different.
This is a very complex business with trillions of moving parts. One wrong bet or manufacturing delay can cost billions and give competitors the chance to jump ahead. Just ask Intel.
It's just been a stunning fall from grace.
This company used to be the world's dominant chip maker.
Over the years, they have fallen away from being the leader. Their technology is not advanced.
We saw the worst share decline in about 40 years for the company. They gave a very grim growth forecast. They also made or announced plans to slash 15,000 jobs.
They've always been on the brink, and they always seem to find a way, but we've never seen anything like this.
Back in San Francisco, I wanted to get perspective on the changing dynamics of the chip industry from Bloomberg reporter Ian King, who knows the stakes better than anyone else.
Explain the pace of the chip industry. Does it feel like a race to you?
It's absolutely a race. It's a murderous race. You fall behind, you are in big trouble. For decades, Intel had more resources than anybody else, more revenue, and was way ahead. It set the agenda. Takes 5 years off, basically made some bad decisions that it shouldn't have made, and now we're in a position where they might never catch up again, right? The train does not wait for anybody.
What do you think Lisa's legacy will be?
It's already cast in stone, right? They're going to build a statue of her because she took a company that was an also-ran that used to get laughed at, almost made a difference, right, AMD, and made it a significant provider of cutting-edge technology, a serious company, one that people believe in and trust, and she did that.
Are we trading the dominance of one company for another?
The direction for the industry was set by Intel for decades. Right now, the whole AI thing is built on NVIDIA. NVIDIA is coming out with software, new chips, new services faster than anybody else is, and everybody's just following them because that's the easy thing to do. At At a certain point, they become utterly pervasive, and then the cost of replacing them becomes difficult.
So what does AMD have to do to catch up?
Depends what you mean by catch up, right? This industry tends to have a very strong player, number one, in each market, a good number two, and then a number three where you're like, why are you bothering? At the moment, AMD is a solid number two and doing well. They have billions of dollars of revenue from this AI accelerator that they didn't have last year, so they're doing way better. But compared to the tens of billions of dollars that Jensen's bringing in at NVIDIA, they're a long way behind.
Let's talk a little bit about the geography. How did the chip industry become so concentrated in Taiwan?
The industry is concentrated in South Korea, in memory, in Taiwan with logic manufacturing. Intel used to sneer at them and say, outsourced manufacturing in semiconductors doesn't make sense. It's not practical. It'll never be as good as we are. Guess what? It's way better than they are right now. It's enabled NVIDIA, it's enabled AMD, and a host of other companies that could never compete with Intel to do more than compete to win, because it's providing the best manufacturing in the world.
However, this has created a very geopolitically difficult situation.
Taiwan is at its closest point about 100 miles away from the coast of mainland China, as you know. China regards Taiwan as a rogue province and part of its sovereign territory. That tension has existed. The US has been the guarantee of Taiwanese safety. With chips becoming more and more important geopolitically, and we've seen that tension arise, obviously there's concern that maybe China takes a strategic look at Taiwan in terms of taking hold of it.
Will silicon ever move back to Silicon Valley in a meaningful way? Like, will chip manufacturing come back to the US?
I think we will see chip manufacturing back in the U.S. I think we should recognize, though, that the semiconductor world is global. Like, that ship has sailed.
Was moving manufacturing abroad a mistake?
In hindsight, I think we would have been happier if there was more manufacturing in the U.S.
American manufacturing, the backbone of our economy, began to get hollowed out. Companies moved jobs overseas. Today, we're down to producing only around 10% of the world's chips, despite leading the world in research and design of new chip technologies.
The U.S. government is considering capping exports of your chips and NVIDIA's to other countries. Is that the right call?
The technology that we're building is some of the most powerful chips in the world. And so we totally get that there's a national security element of it. We want there to be as open a market as possible while still taking into account, the national security interests. And it's a give and take.
Do you worry about the future of Taiwan?
We all worry about ensuring that there is resiliency in the supply chain. So put China and Taiwan aside. A few years ago, we had, a big storm in Texas, and things were out for a few days. That's geographic concentration that you want to make sure that there's resiliency for.
You were born in Taiwan, and I know you go back to your hometown often. What's your favorite thing to do when you're not visiting fabs?
I really do love Taiwan. And I was born in Tainan, so it's a small city in the southern part of Taiwan. Actually, I was just there not too long ago to visit family. And we have a big family. My dad had 9 siblings, and my mom had 6. So it was like a big family. So there are lots and lots of cousins and aunts and uncles and all of that. And so, yeah, it's just fun to kind of be a part of that.
Everyone's curious about the habits of super successful leaders. What are your go-tos? What's in your daily routine?
Well, this morning I was up at 6:30 boxing, so that's in the daily routine. You need to have energy when you start a morning.
Heck yeah.
A day is either, here in the office or it's on the road. But when I'm here in Austin, it's a good day.
When the pace is relentless and perfect execution is the only option, sometimes you need to take your foot off the gas and watch another team compete for some inspiration. Formula One is the most technologically advanced motorsport in the world, and AMD's chips give the Mercedes F1 team an edge in the competition. Sue is giving us a front row seat to the action because, well, she likes fast cars too.
We have a lot of Porsches in our family. That's our thing. One of the things is all of my cars have our product names on it. So I have a Ryzen, and I have an Epic, and I have a Radeon, and I have an Epic 2.
That's amazing.
Yes.
I heard there's an AMD color way.
There is a color palette. The Epic color is graphite blue metallic, and it's a gorgeous color.
And that's the color of your Porsche.
It is.
That's epic. When you look at a car, an F1 car, does it look like a computer on wheels to you?
It absolutely does. It's actually even more than that. I mean, the car itself is just one piece of the equation, right? What's so amazing about the entire Formula One technologies, it's the car, but then it's also just everything behind it that helps get the car ready.
I mean, it's filled with chips and sensors.
I love the fact that Toto actually keeps us informed about how things are going, and it's great that our technology helps them make some of those adjustments.
At Formula One, along with star driver Lewis Hamilton, Mercedes racing boss Toto Wolff is an institution. He works hand in hand with companies like AMD and a team of elite engineers to push the limits of speed and performance for their cars.
There's a million different things that go into winning. How do you figure out the one thing that nobody else knows?
There is no such thing as one thing.
I agree with you. It's true. Absolutely.
Chip industry or motor racing is just good engineering. Empowerment of people, development of people, and giving them the tools to come up with good ideas and make them reality.
Speaking of the technology, how do you think AI is going to change racing?
Engineers would always say the weakness of the car sits between the steering wheel and the engine because it's irrational. It has good and bad days. This human interaction is difficult to replicate because it's an infinite amount of data we generate. The driver has so many sensors. We have hundreds of millions, if not billions, of sensors in our body that make the individual still much superior to the machine and the racing car. So we are in our infant's shoes in terms of AI and application in Formula One.
Lewis, how are you? It's so great to see you.
Lovely to see you.
What's your vibe today? What do you think? How are you feeling?
Practice one was horrendous. It's like the worst practice. I had a big spin. This is a circuit with all the high speed, it's all about confidence. You have to get building blocks. So when you have a spin like that, it knocks you down the ladder. You don't have a lot of time to get back there. So in this session,
fine, and now is really slow going down towards Eau Rouge. Wipers on for David Kajaya, the Georgian driver coming through shots. And now a little bit of breathing space for Gibon, for Georgie. And then Oli Fremert is the last of the ones that have not had issues. We've still got Stimartin in the pit lane, and the pit lane blocked by Petrolisa.
Yeah, I think the marshals probably can recover that. And yeah, if De Martin's making his way out of pit lane, he'll probably have to take to the grass to get his way out of pit lane. He'll probably have to take to the grass to get around. Rain falling in sector 2. Nothing out of our commentary box here on the pit straight, but like you said, we saw the windscreen wipe on the KTM on the Camel straight, and they look slower. They look more tentative through Pouhon. I'm not surprised. That's a fair amount of rain falling now, and there is the problem, like we said about. I think De Martin can get around him there personally. He's maybe been instructed not to, but unless he's just defeated his attitude, I'm already a lap down, so I just make sure I don't get a penalty here for a misdemeanor.
I mean, he could go around the car. The wall isn't narrow enough there, but he would cross the white line and then maybe pick up a penalty. And look, Petrolisa, all he needs to do is do a full reset and gets that KTM back running again. It's exactly the same issue that we saw from David Kajaya in practice. They just needed to fully reset the car and then it ran again. But in these mixed conditions, Philippe Pret feeling a little bit more vulnerable to Roberto Pampanini in the second of our Maseratis. And in fact, the gap even coming down to Brock Formanek, who is forging a way through, and down the inside goes Pampanini up into second spot. That's nice and clean, but they are both closing in on Formanek. who is the first to discover how wet or how dry each part of this circuit is. And again, they run side by side. There was a little bit of contact between the two Maseratis towards La Source. Pret on the racing line on the outside, Pampanini on the inside defending, but now Pret has to go on all of that horrible concrete dust. He's got the drive and he gets back into second position. But what's that car going to feel like when he leans on it into Eau Rouge and Radion?
Yeah, great race. I don't think Pampanini knew he was there as he edged across on Pret. I think he assumed he'd cleared him, and Pret now with the pace. And yeah, Formanak did look like he'd slowed up a bit just to kind of weigh up how much you need to push, but now he looks happier again. But he's starting to see the marks on the tarmac where the water is starting to get bigger and bigger, forming more and more. We've seen lots of cars go straight on here when these conditions have come. The Audi's still looking strong as well, and Gibbon has actually dropped behind those two cars since we were last looking at this battle.
Oh, this is just so tricky, isn't it? This is David Kajaya in the KTM Crossbow, his first weekend in that car. So not only is he has unknowns about the circuit condition, he doesn't even really know how the car will feel under that particular circuit condition. He's done lots of front-wheel drive touring car stuff, a little bit of sports car rear-wheel drive, for instance, in the Ferrari Challenge, but the KTM, particularly the GT2 car, a completely different beast to all of that.
Yeah, it really is, and these drivers now have to work out what settings they should be on, traction control, ABS-wise. Some of them have different throttle maps, how the throttle picks up. You sometimes want it quite sharp in the dry, so when you touch it, it goes straight to full. In the wet, you'd rather an S-shaped curve, so a small amount doesn't open the throttle bodies too much. And that KTM is defending hard at the moment, and they're starting to get stacked up, and Oliver Frameth looks like he's going to make it a four-car battle in the next few corners.
Kaja holding on to fourth position right now, but very, very tentative, very nervous about really leaning on that car and relying upon the grip of the circuit because he doesn't really know if it's there or not. Georgie in the Audi behind, then Gibbon, then Framut, and then almost a lap down the KTM of Petrolisa and Di Marca. Di Marca about what's going on behind him as well as ahead. Always told just to focus on the car in front and not worry about what's going on in your mirrors, especially when you're in this situation. But it's so difficult to do so, especially if you're nervous about your pace, if you're nervous about what car you have underneath. The Mercedes looking good, and we saw in practice and qualifying the Mercedes, because it's forced to be soft by the balance of performance, it does work quite nicely in these kind of mixed conditions. Let's not forget, everybody is on slick tyres, potentially with a slick setup, with a dry setup on the car, and they're now having to just make the most of it. They are all amateur drivers. We open the window for the pros in about 10 minutes time, so they just sort of grin and bear it really as a battle now continues for second position between Pret and Pampanini.
Yeah, these cars 7 seconds off their fastest lap last time by, so that's how much it started to rain. The teams will be considering changing to wet tyres, even though they would have to be in the pits for longer. They may be able to get that compensation back if the rain continues to fall, but at the moment here on the pit straight, it just seems to be that much drier than out the back of the circuit. So the rain normally comes in from the top here at Le Combe down to us, but at the moment Steve seems to have stagnated in the middle part of this track.
And that camera shot sort of insinuates that the foggy light rain that was falling has disappeared. It looks a lot kind of crisper, the picture, not as foggy, so maybe we have lost it. But it has meant that, I mean, Formanak hasn't driven away like we've seen so often this year. Pret and Pampanini have really kept him honest over the last couple of laps, over those last sort of insecure laps. Maybe Formanak just really
car 88 must give back the position to car 89. Car 88 must give back the position to car 89.
Race control deciding that Georgie did gain an advantage. The pass wasn't off track, but the momentum was. So that is 88 Georgie in fourth position. Needs to give Kajaya the track position, but he's 2.5 seconds back. So he's really have to pull on the anchors. Look at the gap between the Audi and the KTM.
Yeah, and Santa Maria, the race director there, I do agree with her. The momentum was there, wasn't it, from the illegal part of running wide. So he's now got to give up how much time as they came across the line there. That's got to be...
That was 2.8.
Yeah, 2.8 seconds. He's got to slow down. That's going to be painful. Is this that car retiring of Petrolisa, or are they going to change tyres? Don't seem to be in a massive hurry, do they? So I think that might be job done. As you can see, the NM Mercedes leaving its pit box.
Yeah, for the second time it's been in the pits for another 3.5 minutes. So not having a happy time of things, NM Racing. Maybe they took tyres and gone on to the wet tyre. Right, let's have a look at this replay. So Georgie runs really wide, but he's kept the throttle open, right?
Yeah, he actually doesn't have that much momentum, does he, when he swings back around him? That move, I think, could have happened if he hadn't have run wide, but because he had run wide, the race director's got to make a decision, and I see the logic in going, well, you've run wide there must be an advantage. It's hard to quantify it, and that position has been swapped back, and we go for round 2.
Quite awkwardly, though, because Kajaya has to go around the outside at Bruxelles, and yeah, he's ticked the box, but he was compromised on his exit of Bruxelles, compromised through what used to be Speaker's Corner, is now curve Jackie X, and now it's really, really tight between the 4 of them once again. He's done well, actually, not to lose more than one position, because Gibbon could have been snapping at the heels of the KTM, and now to improvise and find a new way past, but in different conditions, because it's not that sort of soggy, slightly wet conditions that it was 2 laps ago. Kajaya should be building more confidence, and even though the windscreen wipers are on, that's probably because he doesn't know where the button is to turn them off, being a new cockpit.
Yeah, potentially. Their lap time's now back to 2 seconds off their fastest, so 5 seconds quicker than the last time around. So it was a short, sharp shower, and now maybe the KTM prefers these conditions, like you said, Ben, and suddenly isn't advantage Audi or Mercedes or Lambo, and the KTM might be able to start getting away from them, but now it's 12.4 seconds off third place Pampinini.
David Kajaya, with plenty of touring car experience in the International Series and the European Championship as well, before moving to the more sort of Central European Series. Done a little bit of Ferrari Challenge as well, but races for the Georgian police team in the Central European BMW Cup, because he is part of the police in his day job, and the US Embassy Military of Defense. Got a very, very interesting job. Not known as David Kajaya in his professional capacity. Takes the European name rather than his Tbilisi-born Georgian name. Great racetrack in Tbilisi that he was involved in developing as well. Look at these countries and think, I wonder if they have a racetrack. Well, Georgia definitely does, and it is top spec. So he has plenty of experience there. Plenty of experience here as well, but not in a KTM GT2 car, and having to go really defensive once again.
Yeah, that's interesting. I can't wait to read his autobiography, and always fancy myself being able to drop a policeman if I had to in a chase, but maybe not with Kajaya then, and I'll remember that next time in Tbilisi in trouble, and I'll pull over nicely. But the Audi still hustling on well. Good to see the Audi back as well. We haven't seen it for a few rounds, and beautiful looking car. And we said earlier in qualifying, great to see Audi represented in GT2, GT3 and GT4.
And second, separating the 2 of them. Pampinini in 3rd spot, again keeping the 2 of them honest. 2 points. Stop bit has been removed because it's not really a bus stop shape any longer. Stop bit has been removed because it's not really a bus stop shape any longer.
The man on the move. You can see that slight bit of damage on the left-hand side. The still from De Martin, lap 1, turn 1, but it doesn't look like it will be too bad. Team will probably have a quick look at it in the pit stop and always put a bit of tape on it if they think it's going to get worse, but at the moment it's looking okay for Philip Pret.
And it was Pret who had the fastest lap on that last lap, a 2:23.2, taking 0.6 of a second out of Formenac. But they are dropping Pampinini. It was a slow lap from Pampinini, actually. He was the slowest of that lead group, and actually slower even than David Kajaya on that last lap. So it's amazing how through the stint the performance of these different drivers changed, but also due to not just tyres but track conditions as well, and the weather that is sort of sweeping across this area. We were supposed to have improving conditions and basically blue sky by this afternoon, but it's not really living up to the forecast at the moment. Hopefully for the weekend, and what is forecast for the weekend is hot and blue, and by Monday tropical conditions back in the whole of Europe.
It's just rubbish, isn't it, the forecast here? There's no point even looking at it. Every time I've come here, I Google Spa-Francorchamps weather. Why am I doing this? It's just completely its own microclimate. So
you can go cross-country skiing here in the winter. Not here, but about 10 minutes down the road. there are signs for cross-country ski hire in Francorchamps town.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. A beautiful part of the world, and thank God we built a racetrack here, because it is the best in the world, in my opinion. It's got everything on track and then off track as well now. The weather, the festival feeling, the parade we did as well, the amount of people that attended that, it felt like a mini Glastonbury almost.
That's the idea. The Spa 24 Hours, absolutely one of the highlights of the motorsport year, not just the endurance calendar, but also generally motorsport. It's definitely one of those races to tick. And with Nürburgring and Le Mans setting a pretty high bar, I reckon Spa these days now absolutely equals it in terms of the spectacle and in terms of the value as well, because a weekend ticket is just nothing. Maybe a lot of people will be saving their money to come and watch Formula One in a couple of weeks' time here, but I wouldn't. I'd be going GT racing and enjoying the festival atmosphere. Hadn't actually seen who's playing in the paddock, but there is actually music every single night, isn't there? The last couple of nights there's been live music, all the way through into Saturday night and the fireworks.
Yeah, that damage is actually quite bad when you see it on the sill.
But isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the Maserati, a lot stronger than Mercedes, you would say, because it was front wheel, which you would have thought would have destroyed the bodywork of the Maserati, but the Mercedes bounced off. Luckily for Philip Pret, actually saw Stefano Ortelli on the pit wall last time by, giving Philip Pret the hurry up and the thumbs up and talking to him on the radio. So yes, he's solo driver, Philip Pret, but he's got a super experienced driver coach in Stefano Ortelli helping him out with the LP Motorsport team.
Pit lane window open then. And for those that are Pro-Am entries, that means come into the pits and give your car to the pro driver as soon as possible, because then you can maximise the performance of that driver. For Philippe Pret, for instance, he can kind of be flexible with when he comes into the pits, because he will be getting out the car, but he'll be getting right back in it again. Gone are the days where you had to run around it or do silly things like that, but he does still have to get out, go behind the line, the pit lane line, and then go back into the car. All pit stops timed at 181 seconds, so no rush, unless they want to put tyres on, and that's not a thing I don't think we're going to see. So here is a look again. There's the damage to Pret's car, probably not affecting him too much. It's really cosmetic, and this is where it came from. So Alberto de Marta all the way around the outside, and yeah, there was just no space for him on the exit there. Quite a big impact, really.
It really was, and pinched round on him, and de Marta, I can see why he tried it, but being the outside of two cars on your inside is always a high risk, and it didn't pay off there. The house always wins. As we look at Pret from Monaco, will he pit this lap? He's not really in so much of a rush by himself, decides to stay out as Formanek pits. Formanek has an extra 7 seconds on his pit step, but Philip Pret has 14, Pampanini has 10. At the moment, they will all stay in their position, even with their offset penalties, because Philip Pret 4 seconds longer than this car, but last time across the line, the gap 5.5 seconds, and obviously Racina taking over from Formanek has the shortest one of them all.
I think it might bring Kajaya and Mato Homola, the 89 there on the screen, I think it might bring them into the mix a little bit more, because they were, I think, about 12 seconds back pre-pit stop. Once everything shakes out, and it will take a while, we've got a 10-minute window whereby you can pit, and just a few mechanics allowed to work on the car. They are checking the temperatures. Are they changing the temperature? Checking the pressures, sorry. Are they changing the pressures?
It doesn't look like it. It also doesn't look like a second driver's ready. I can't see Homola in shot there. Normally the driver's kind of itching to go, grabbing the first driver out by any means necessary, but I assume he will be there, but I just didn't get any shot of Mato Homola ready to jump aboard that 89 KTM.
Another touring car expat, professional driver Mato from Slovakia, his home track, the Slovakia Ring. So they both are very well associated to their racetracks that they have in their country. I think it's probably the only racetrack in Slovakia, the Slovakia Ring. Once upon a time, GT3 used to go there.
A race that had a huge shunt in qualifying. Where there was a jump there. They hadn't profiled, and we were trying to do backflips there in an Audi R8. I remember it was good fun, and yeah, great circuit. And the most common nationality in GT2 race this weekend is the Slovaks. So
that's a good point.
We should call them the Fastbacks, really, as this car was leading the race.
Absolutely good point. Stefan Racina will be getting aboard the number 11 machine. Pret stays out. Pampanini, interestingly, doing an extra lap over the rest of the Pro-Am competitors. Gibbon, Freimut, they can kind of pit whenever they like. And then we will see De Marta come into the pits and change over to Neil Montserrat, but they are pretty much out of it, aren't they? Pret continues. Now putting 7 seconds of a gap between himself and Pampanini. And under us, we can hear the rest of the GT2 field firing up and heading back out onto circuit. Just got to keep an eye and make sure that they have done that 181 minimum pit stop time. The pit stop time is from pit in, that line just there, to pit out, which is all the way down at the bottom of Eau Rouge. So the teams can sort of guesstimate how long they need to hold the car for. What you can't do is drive down pit lane here and go, oh, we're a bit early, park up for 2 seconds and then break the beam. You will get a penalty for that. So the estimation of how long the car stops for is kind of critical.
Yeah, huge. There's some GPS systems now you can use to aid that, but the stopwatch is still a very trusty tool in all of the mechanics workbook for that one. And just looking at Racine, 181 as their minimum, and should have been +7. So at the moment, I think they're slightly under their minimum time, just looking at that.
Oops. Maths to be done. They're allowed to be a second under and play a joker, but if they're more than a second under, then penalties do come their way. And it's remarkable in the world of GT2 and GT4 just how often penalties are applied for pit stop time being just a fraction under, you know, just tenths of a second that really wouldn't matter a great deal, although every tenth matters in racing, but the penalties are a lot harsher. Pampanini now comes into the pits 1 lap later. He'll hand over to Mauro Calamia, but our 3 amateur drivers stay out. Philippe Pret, Pascal Gibbon has another amateur teammate to hand over to, but Gibbon holding on to the fort in the Mercedes for the moment. Freimut doesn't hand over to anyone either, so he actually has done better, Freimut. He took victory in the AM category in the second race of Paul Ricard, but is half a minute back from Pret on this particular occasion. And Pret can go another 1 or 2 laps before he absolutely needs to come in.
Yeah, he's just trying to use this clear track, isn't he? I think Racina was 6 tenths under what he should have been. Interesting, Matteo Homola, that driver change. Didn't actually see the driver, Matteo Homola. They were 6 seconds too slow, so they lost a lot of time there. And yeah, the others all safe at the moment as we see Philippe Pret pit.
Well, all of that potential advantage of having a shorter stop than everybody else for the 89 has come to nothing if you're 6 seconds over what you need to do. Maybe Homola, we didn't see him because he wasn't ready, and that's what the difference is. Because it's not as though these windows are particularly short. You can really service and do everything you need to do in plenty of time.
Information for the teams: pit stop of car 11 is under investigation. Pit stop of car 11 is under investigation.
Race control have heard Joe Osborne's summary. It wasn't particularly hard to get to that conclusion when you look at the pit stop time on the timing screen. But they are investigating our leader's pit stop. You're leading the race. You've got a decent advantage over the rest of the field. There's absolutely no need to make a little error like that. But unfortunately for Mechanic Motorsport, they have. Now, can you remember at Zandvoort why they lost the race there? Because I have a feeling it was a very similar thing.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? A pit stop issue as well. So that would be hugely frustrating for them. Philippe Pret getting back in after getting out, and you could see him getting a quick debrief, not only from Stefan Ortelli, but his son as well, Louis Pret, racing in the GT3 as Gibbon jumps out of the car. Bourret as well sat there. I think maybe some of the drivers aren't jumping straight in because they're putting some fuel in, so the driver can't be in the car while they're fueling. So there's a dump churn of fuel going in, so that's maybe why Homola wasn't in shot. They were doing that. These cars are so powerful, they're not able to sometimes do a full hour of racing without a 20-litre jug of fuel.
Rosina has a healthy advantage over Calamia. of what is that gap between 4th and 5th position. 40 seconds, is that right? It's massive. But slotting between those two will be Philip Pret once he's finished his pit stop. And of course, we've now got a question mark over the number 11 pit stop. Great view of the dash and all the information that the driver gets on that steering wheel. Here is Rosina then. First lap out of the pits. Is that correct? First lap out of the pits? Yes.
Here, Pret pulling away below us, but this shouldn't be close because Philip Pret's pit stop was 7 seconds longer by regulation. That car was 1.4 seconds under, so that car should be about 9 seconds clear as they rejoin together as they go through Eau Rouge. But looks like Philip Pret's going to easily be in front. But of course, he's got to do the full length of the F1 pits and also this endurance pit lane too.
Yes, because the compensation time is given to each individual car per class rather than just the top 3 overall. That is why Pret has a 14-second extra long pit stop. And it will be easy peasy for the Lamborghini to retake the lead, coming down towards Eau Rouge, and Rosina leads. Calamia probably isn't close enough to pick up 2nd position. There he is coming into La Source now, but Pret is going to get up to speed, I would imagine. He might be under pressure at the end of the Kemmel Straight, depending on how well he attacks the pit out. Narrow pit lane, as pit lanes are, but with plenty of corners in it to negotiate. You really don't want to make any mistakes in there. Very, very tricky in wet conditions, a bit easier in the dry. But there's a nice queue of cars behind Calamia. We've got the Audi 2 seconds back, and then Hommler just a second and a half back. So that has become then, on the same camera shot, the battle for 2nd.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a battle by the end of the lap between the two Maseratis, not for class, but we've seen from Pret he doesn't care what class the car's in. He will fight anyone to the grim death. And the KTM running wide to the inside of the Audi. That was a scary looking movement. When you see that, you think the car's going to lunge it. Hommler looking down the inside of the Audi, thinking better of it. But these drivers now installed in the car, they've got to get up to speed very quickly mid-race. When you jump in a car, it's a completely different feeling as when you start the race. You can ease yourself into it.
Mathieu Hommler, another of our younger guns in GT2 European Series. And it's the 2 youngest drivers on the same piece of tarmac right now. Casigna from Monza, the Italian who is working with Gianluca Giorgi at his race school based out of Monza. He was born in Monza, so he absolutely has motorsport in his veins. And great to welcome new names to the GT2 European Series. I suppose with an eye, perhaps, on the Silver Championship that's going to be introduced next year. The 2 of them, both I would have said would be silver drivers. And Mathieu Hommler from lots of front-wheel drive European touring car, TCR as well. We've seen him in all kinds of different vehicles, most recently racing TCR in the Eastern European Championship. Until he was picked up as the pro driver for this KTM. And now that looks like we've got some drizzly rain again.
Yeah, windscreen wipers going, and it looks like it's hanging in the air again through that final part of the lap. And it'll be interesting to see what the penalty is for Rosina. We're used to seeing a drive-through penalty, but of course the drive-through here is so much more of a penalty than normal. So maybe a 10-second or a 20-second added to the end of the race, and that could be interesting because at the moment they're 19 seconds ahead of Philip Pret. And believe it or not, the Lamborghini has never won a GT2 race here at Spa before, so they will be gunning to change that fact. And at the moment, Rosina, super fast, has done the fastest lap of the race. Actually, Hommler has beaten that now, 10th quicker, 22.4, and yeah, there's definitely something in the air, isn't there? I think we could be getting to that high humidity point where it feels like it needs to rain again.
Calamia once again on the tail of Philippe Pret as we see a nice super slow-mo of that front right wheel doing its work through the final chicane. And then running the car over the rumble strip, which is pretty flat. Most of the curbs these days on any race circuit don't seem to do too much, apart from the Nürburgring. Stay away from those. They're vicious. But this being now the scene of the Spa 8-hour motorbike race. Is it 8 hours? Actually, it might even be a 24-hour race these days. All the curbs very flat for those motorbikes.
Yeah, the FIA now regulate the shape of the curbs, the segregation, so you can drive any circuit in the world and they all feel the same. Still a few quirky ones here. So running wide, and he's lost that position to Calamia, not for class, like I said, but now he is down to 3rd overall, still leading his class, and that will be his main focus. And these 2 cars behind catching, and they've swapped position as well.
Yeah, Homela's lost a position to the Audi as well, so there's been a decent amount of shuffling of the pack on that last lap. And I wonder whether that's because we've got a little bit of rain in the air and you just want to be slightly more cautious, not to understeer or run wide or even lose the rear end on a soggy curb. It's just been that classic kind of Spa day where it's just a little bit insecure with the weather all the way through. We've got the Super Pole for the 24-hour race coming up after this, and I tell you what, mixed conditions is not what the Super Pole guys really want, or anybody, I think, because it's going to really shake up the grid. It's already shaken up in the GT3 race thanks to rain at the start of qualifying 1, broken into 4 parts, and qualifying 1 only had 43 cars. Those that took part in only Q2, 3 and 4, well, they didn't get affected by the soggiest of the conditions and therefore were faster by the average lap time.
Yeah, and I think the Super Bowl contenders will be watching this race intently, trying to work out where is the rain coming, where is it at its worst, because they've only got 2 laps to do that Super Bowl. Look at the amount of rubber offline as well, as we see Calamia put the windscreen wiper on. Philip Pret is stuck with him. Last time we saw them coming towards the end of the lap, that gap looked pretty similar, so Philip Pret looks like he's rallied his pace a bit and may be able to stick with that sister Lamborghini for a bit longer. Maserati, sorry.
Matto Homela crawling all over the back of the Audi, looks to the inside, but Bruxelles is such a difficult place to overtake because one of the racing lines is very direct into an early apex, and some big, nice 11s from the Audi exiting Bruxelles keeps the momentum up, and it's sort of characteristic of the GT2 car, isn't it? If you are in trouble, you've got the grunt to get you out of it.
Yeah, the car's moving all over the place, but Homela looking racy and looks like he wants to get the move done, and it really needs to be in Sector 2 to play the strength of that KTM over the Audi. Of course, they've still got 20 minutes remaining, so they'll be thinking about how their tyres are working. Are they starting to go off? Do they need to start to look after that rear tyre? The more energy you put through them, of course, they're going to fall away quicker, and that will hurt you towards the end of this race.
Through Campus. Curve pull flare next, which can be flat out, and it sort of continues onto the original Spa-Francorchamps circuit. Yes, the one from the 1930s and 40s that came from the village of Stavelot along this part of the then main road, all the way from Stavelot to Francorchamps. And this was where the bus stopped, in the bus stop chicane, which was remodeled probably 20 years ago now. Oh, and running deep and running wide.
Penalty information. Car 11 has a 13-second time penalty for short pit stop.
So Stefan Resina needs to win this race by 13 seconds to keep the victory for fourth position side by side. Homela still losing out to Kazania. Now goes on the dirty inside line and loses the traction, loses the momentum, so the Audi is going to hold on to that position. But it does look as though as they get to this part of the track, it is definitely slippier. Look at how the Audi twitches on the right-hand part of Eau Rouge, and I'm sure he didn't take the racing line there. Wet tyres being prepared at LP Racing. But is it wet enough? Yes, it's raining here, but at the end of the Kemmel Straight, it's not raining. Again, standard Spa.
Yeah, it's not ready for wet. You could see the glossy sheen through Eau Rouge, so it's definitely wet there. It's definitely wet at the bus stops. There's almost like a shower has gone through the middle of the circuit, and the 2 end halves are actually dry where we are now, and it is the low point, isn't it, at the bottom of Eau Rouge and the bus stop that seem to have captured the latest rainfall.
This circuit is built in a valley. It's the valley of the river Eau Rouge, and that river actually runs through the very center of the circuit, and then the circuit is sort of built on the left and the right-hand side. The original circuit went away from the river on the left-hand side of the river, then crossed over the river somewhere around Stavelot. It wasn't actually at Stavelot, I think it was before it, and then came back up the right-hand side of the river. And as we've shortened it, we do exactly the same thing. The crossing point is at the curve Pool Frere, but it does mean that weather can get stuck in the middle of the valley.
Yeah, you as a driver just have to work out where the rain is at any given lap, and you don't try and almost put too much logic to it, and you just drive to what you can see and what you can feel, and that's the best way round what is thrown us. So yeah, this is where it seems to be wetter again, doesn't it?
And Pret is really, really struggling. Philippe Pret in that Maserati has lost a huge amount of time to the Audi and the KTM. Yes, these are both professional pro drivers and young pro drivers in these two cars, and Pret's not going to fight them. He's still leading by a country mile. Leaves the door open, but I think the Italian knows just how tricky this chicane was last time by, and doesn't want to go canning into the side of the Maserati by mistake.
This is properly wet. I said it wasn't wet, but if this continues at this pace, they're going to have to pit. Otherwise, they're going to be aquaplaning off, and Pret does lose one position, two positions. He thinks better off it, doesn't he? I think that's smart driving from Philippe Pret to make sure he keeps his class lead in the AM class. He does lose an overall podium now, though, so that will hurt. But what are these conditions going to turn into? I'm worried for these drivers who've seen it so many times here at Spa, and we cars attacking corners 260, 270 kilometers an hour, and then suddenly a bucket of rain falls and you lose all grip instantly.
At least it doesn't look as though it's that kind of rain, that kind of nothing to everything rain. There's a warning of drizzle first, but certainly visibly coming down on the pit straight, and Matto Homola is not liking this. We've already spoken about that carbon fiber chassis being very, very stiff, and Homola is now being hounded by Philippe Pret in a much more compliant Maserati behind.
Yeah, all over the curb, the mechanic feeling for the rain through his gloves. That might take a while to get a good reading on that, but this KTM, it's a shame the car doesn't. It almost needs adjustable roll bars like an old F3 car where you could soften the thing off on the fly, because it suddenly turns into a very stiff machine, and the exact opposite of what you want. 14 minutes remaining. There's no time advantage to going to wet, so I don't think you're going to get that tyre change time back. But if your car goes in the wall because it wasn't on wets, it would have probably been better to swap tyres.
And even if they do come into the pits, they can't just come in, change and go out again. There are regulations that state how long that pit stop has to be. So you have a minimum pit stop time for a mandatory pit stop, which we've already seen, but then you have a minimum pit stop time for pit stops outside of the window. So pit stop involving a tyre change must be 97 seconds. So it isn't as though you can do a quick pit stop and change to wets. You must still do a pit stop in 97 seconds, and therefore a gap of 47 seconds between Pret and Freymut would be annihilated. So there's a big risk in doing it unless absolutely necessary.
Yeah, and the problem is if you come in and then someone else goes off, you don't get any of the benefit. So the team will normally say, stay out, but just don't crash, because someone else will, and then it will go to a neutralised state. So, yeah, it's looking properly slippery into this last chicane, isn't it? And Racina, at the moment, with a big enough gap, even when we take that 13-second penalty away, still got nearly 10 seconds, cars going in deeper and deeper. Homola doing well there to get to the apex and actually get on top of the curb to help rotate it, but visibility getting worse and worse each lap.
We are 20 seconds slower than the best lap of the race set just a few laps ago. Lap 12, Matto Homola set the fastest lap of the race of a 2:22. We're on lap 17, so 5 laps later, and we're 20 seconds slower. So you can make, you're not going to make 20 seconds up on a wet tyre, and it's not quite wet enough, really, is it?
No, and it could stop as well and go the other way. And for example, they were doing 2:33s on wet tyres this morning in qualifying, so they're 9 seconds slower than that on wet tyres. So yeah, there's just not enough time to make it work, but it is getting treacherous out there, and at the moment everyone driving very, very well to keep these powerful cars on the track.
I think I'd be crying to my pit crew, let me change tyres, please. It'll just be so much easier for me. I've got a Maserati to muscle array around the circuit, and this is really very tricky on slick tyres, because of course the slick tyre absolutely relies upon temperature. If it's got no temperature in the tyre, then it doesn't do anything whatsoever. And Ortelli is now going to be working very, very hard. He's going to be almost corner by corner guiding Pret around this circuit.
Yeah, he'll be using our pictures to say where the rain is at its worst, what traction control setting to be in. Just relax, we've got a huge gap of 52 seconds to the car behind the Framer, so no risk, no risk. 11 minutes remaining, just chill. He'll then be looking out for any other cars with an issue, saying cars gone off T15, extra slow, maybe even starting to put some actual numbers to it, like normally apex speed here through at Piff Paff. Oh, huge snap there for the dynamic Maserati, sorry. It'd just be like, do 80 Ks, not 120, and just trying to help the driver out as much as they can. The driver coach, really a frustrated driver outside, and they've got to try and relay that information over the radio.
Most roles like that in GT4 or in GT2, you have the professional driver as a pro-am combination. And it'd be pretty cool to have Ortelli sharing that car at Pret. They would absolutely dominate, I think, the championship, but unfortunately Ortelli not part of driving that car. When they had the prologue here a few weeks ago, Ortelli was tasked with taking some journalists around in his Audi R8 that he won the Spa 24 Hours in 2009, perhaps. Maybe that's a complete guess. So please forgive me if I'm wrong. But the idea was, whilst the test was going on, he was out there taking journalists around. So the journalists were getting this opportunity to do a fast lap with Stefano Ortelli in an Audi R8, but also they were being bombarded by GT3 cars on their test program. And what an experience that must have been. Into the chicane, we've seen the 88 Audi R8 missing the apex a few times. This was a few laps ago. To be fair, it didn't lock up and didn't add too much lock. So kind of half planned that, knew what was going to happen, and has the space to get out of it without too much problem. So no contact with any wall, no gravel trap to go through, just come off the brake and just miss the corner.
Yeah, from memory, I think Ortelli won in 2009, you're right, but in a GT2 category, in a Porsche. It was 2012 from memory that he won here at Spa in the Audi R8, number 16 with Stippler, Rennie Rust and Piccini.
I think you're being nice to me there, Joe.
I'm just reading it off Google.
So, Stefan Racina with a 13-second penalty at the end of the race, but he's got 19-second advantage over Calamia. Interestingly, that's come down. So it's come down from 22 seconds. So Calamia on the last lap, able to take a little bit of time out of him. Rosina did a 41, Calamia did a 39, Cazagna did a 37. So there's big differences out there on circuit between the pace of the different cars. It is still raining, but it's that annoying. It's that annoying light rain, isn't it?
Yeah, the problem is, well, the tyres will be starting to lose temperature now. One, because of the rain, but also the pace they're doing. There's not the energy to keep them in the operating temperature. So then they go slower, so then they get colder. So they can't afford many laps of 20 seconds off the pace. These cars will become undrivable quite quickly. I think luckily for them, the rain is abating and they're able to get it in, but Racina still going in deep there. It's almost like a trend. These drivers would rather brake too late and get it there, kicking up the water out the curb as well. The serrations holding the curb, and as Racina crosses the line, his lap time on that last time back down to a 2:34, so suddenly 7 seconds a lap quicker than he was previously doing.
Daniel Cazagna is going to need to be very careful. Actually, that replay we just saw was from the last lap. It wasn't a few laps before where we saw him do exactly the same thing, and he's done the same thing again. And now he's had a black and white flag for track limits. So with 7.5 minutes remaining, he needs to keep that Audi within the white lines. Otherwise, he will get a penalty. And it was his teammate who was on the cusp of getting a penalty in the first part of the race. Once you change driver, then your track limit warnings get reset for the second driver. So they're per driver rather than per car. But he is absolutely on the ragged edge. That classic kind of young driver philosophy of, it doesn't really matter. I'll go as fast as possible and let the car run as wide and maybe do a couple of track limit warnings. Most of the other drivers have been pretty well behaved. Calamia with 3 track limit warnings. Who else has got 3 track limit warnings? From Framert in the Lamborghini in 6th position. for him, it is a minute back from Pret. So we're getting close to the point where Pret could come in and get wet tyres for comfort and still be ahead of this black Lamborghini.
Yeah, actually the pace of Calame on the last lap still 2.1 seconds quicker than Racina, so that gap now at 17.7. Remember, it's got to be bigger than 13 if Racina is to claim the win, and he would go joint winningest driver as well alongside Bert Longin, so that would be a good accolade to have alongside the first ever win for a Lamborghini here at Spa in GT2.
All the stats from Joe Osborne.
I wish they were mine.
Claim it, claim it. Third position battle, last spot on the podium. Matto Homler back onto the tail of the Audi that now has to be careful. Cannot be hassled off the circuit because he will get a track limit penalty. Homler doesn't have that problem. And now with a circuit which is drier, although that camera angle doesn't suggest that it is, the KTM, it comes back to him. He's got a car, he's got a nice stiff car that he can lean on and generate grip. When it rains, it doesn't work for him, but when it's dry, it works really nicely. And this, the battle then for the final podium spot, possibly not close enough to challenge for second, and Homler goes to the outside. Can he go all the way around the outside of the first part? No, and actually this is looking a little bit greasier here than the middle part of the lap.
Yeah, both cars getting good traction. Didn't matter if it was the Audi on the curb or the KTM on the tarmac. They both accelerated at the same rate. Homler there just looking to the inside, trying to catch the mirror of the Audi, so trying to distract, and got to try and stick with him through this painful sector 1 for the KTM, and then look to attack somewhere in sector 2. And at the moment, I'd say the best overtaking spots potentially in Tipuan, because we're getting such a good run through Speaker's Corner.
When I spoke to Matto Homler in Zandvoort a few weeks ago, I said to him, oh, you must be enjoying driving the KTM, no understeer on the old touring car days where, of course, the front-wheel drive, the front wheels are doing the driving and the steering, so it's always understeer. And he went, no, actually, it's got quite a lot of understeer. This KTM, so stiff that's the main project, is trying to dial out the understeer on the front of the car, get the car rear to rotate. And I guess when the rain starts to fall, that problem is compounded. He's got a little bit of loose diffuser on the left rear, just flapping around, not a big deal, and a little bit of an overlap through Bruxelles. But what's your preferred racing line through there?
I just like to veer off, so I can basically take any of the skill away. I brake as late as I can, think I'm going in the wall, rotate the car in the middle, and then just jump on the throttle and kind of get around it in the most inefficient and least glamorous way possible.
That's one of the ways to do it, isn't it? There are a few different ways, and that's certainly one. Sort of very early apex and run very deep into the middle part of the corner. And it certainly defends from people who are trying to attack you as well. Look how the KTM can be thrown around now. That's not what we saw from Matto Homler 2 or 3 laps ago, where he was being so cautious with that car. Now his steering inputs are much more aggressive, leans on that right rear corner. I think this camera is just a little bit foggy because it's still got the raindrops from when it was raining earlier on. That's why that particular corner looks a bit foggier than the rest. But when we come up to the end of the lap, the circuit certainly looks a bit wetter. Live gap then between Rosina and Calamia. It's significant because it's coming down, and 13 is the crucial gap. Anything under 13, Rosina loses this race. Calamia wins this race. We're waiting for Calamia to come over the line. It's just gone out a fraction, so 0.3 bigger than the previous lap.
Yeah, time for 2 more laps as well. So, yeah, Kalima has got to find 3 seconds, 1.5 seconds a lap. Can he do it? It's only half a second a sector, 6 sectors to go. That's how he'd work it out as an engineer. Try and give your driver the biggest, shiniest carrot to bite onto as this battle rages on for the last podium position.
Love that camera shot. So cool as the cars blast past the wall, inches from it, and set themselves up Eau Rouge and over Radillon. Now this part of the circuit looking a little bit wetter, but as they break into the Le Com, it's drier again, and a little bit of a late move from Matto Homler, covered off by the Audi. And the problem is that KTM is so much stronger. Oh, that's bold down the inside there. very rarely does that work out, and it didn't work out in Homola's favour. We saw him trying to do that earlier on in the race and thinking, no, I'm not so sure. This is really the best overtaking opportunity of the middle part of the lap, and he's too far behind.
Yeah, the problem with that look was it's just lost him so much time and momentum, and it isn't an overtaking spot unless the car in front makes a mistake or there's a massive pace deficit. So that was a little petulant maybe from Homola there, maybe used to his touring car moves where you can just door someone out the way, but that wouldn't work in a GT2 car. You would attract too much damage to yourself. We only have to see De Martin on lap 1 to see that case study.
I guess also, even if you just hassle the Audi off the road, he will know that it's got so many track limit warnings that a penalty is incoming. So if he can get him off 4 wheels off the circuit, then that at least will give him the position and put him onto the podium. That's one way about it, or he actually has to do the move.
Yeah, and just looking at the lead gap as well, I think that's going to drop this lap on the sectors. Looks like he's probably taken 8/10 out of him in the first 2 sectors, where it has to be a second and a half. So I think this gap could be pretty close. If it goes sub 15 seconds, this could be game on between first and second, that 13-second penalty. The other thing for Racina is he has the lap car, as Homola all over the back, he has the lap car, sorry, of Neil Monserrat as well to contend with. 15.5, so actually grew the 3rd sector. Not so good for the Calamari Maserati.
Yeah, I wonder whether Racina was caught out with the little bit of traffic. Here comes Homola at La Source, not close enough again. Again, it's just half moves, isn't it, Joe? He's not really committing. He needs to just get fully down the inside, claim the apex, and stop that Audi from turning in. But it's just not quite close enough or not quite decisive enough.
Yeah, and that's the problem when you're in the car without the top speed that KTM doesn't have. Uses a nice track limit there. Can he get in the toe? This doesn't have the power, but the slipstream effect so strong. He gets sucked into the pocket and then rocketed along. And it does look like that gap's getting smaller, smaller, smaller. Is he going to send it all the way around the outside? Hard move to do here.
Got to go round the outside, and Mato Homola has done it with the momentum, with the slipstream, with the commitment up Eau Rouge. And on the final lap, Homola gets his KTM onto the podium. Nice move by the Slovakian. He was lining it up for a couple of laps, but finally makes it stick, and to the frustration of the Italian behind. And actually, look how much pace he has over the Audi now, already driving away what could have been, perhaps, had he done that a little bit earlier.
Yeah, it doesn't look like Racina's getting caught quick enough by Clamia now, so I think this is going to be a race win for this number 11 Lamborghini.
Bronick, Formignac and Stefan Racina with victories in Paul Ricard, with a victory at Zandvoort, and therefore the championship lead coming into this weekend. And other than that indiscretion from the team in the pits to make Racina's life a little bit trickier, he's just about had control over this second stint. It's been a challenge for all involved in these wet, dry conditions at Spa-Francorchamps, but it's going to be victory number 4 of the year for Stefan Racina. Victory number 10 in his career in GT2.
Check red flag,
and he has done it.
End of the race.
What will be the gap, though? Is there 3 seconds to find? I say he's done it, but if Calamia brings out an absolutely stonker of a lap and it's below the gap, below 13 seconds, then this Maserati could be on the top step of the podium. Is it? Is it? Gap is even larger than before. And in the end, the timing screens will say that it was just 3 seconds between the two of them, but it was actually 16.4. Homola on the podium in 3rd position with his new teammate for this race, David Kajaya.
Great race and great driving in some tricky conditions to not see anyone drop it. We had that contact at turn 1, didn't we? But I think that was fair racing. No penalty will be attracted. Feel sorry for De Martin after a punchy start to get that puncher and rule themselves out of a good result.
Yeah, and they'll start in a good position for tomorrow's race as well. Don't forget, this is the first of 2 races as Philippe Pret comes over the line as the AM Cup victor. And we have plenty of time to wait for Oliver Freimuth and Christophe Borret, who will round out the top 3 in the AM category. Those were the 3 AMs that had no issues. And then the 7, 8, 9 of RTR projects, the second of the KTMs, back in the championship for this weekend. I'm afraid Petrolisa retiring that car, and Victor Moraz, the new driver to that team, missing out on taking part. So he will start tomorrow's race if they can get that car fixed, and it was a mechanical by the looks of things rather than anything else. Stuttered to a halt at the bottom of Eau Rouge, and then they did get it round to the pits, but unfortunately it then ground to a halt in the pits and didn't restart. But really good first stint against all the amateurs from Philip Pret, but against the pros in the second half of the race in those really tricky conditions. Pret just took it super easy, surely under instruction from Stefano Ortelli, but it still took the victory. There you go. Classification suggests that the gap was just 3.4 seconds in the end after that 13-second penalty has been taken into account. Kajaya and Hommler will be on the podium in third position after that last lap move. Philippe Pret on the top step of the AM category with Oliver Fremuth. Gibbon Boré third on the AM podium. Well, it only takes 2 cars to make a motor race, and I have to say, with all those different changing of conditions, that was decent entertainment.
Yeah, it was really good. It was hard to call at times as well, wasn't it? The KTM, definitely the car that swung the most between the conditions. Very quick in the dryers. We saw Hommler claim that final podium position and gap the Audi by 2.7 seconds, considering that overtake was done almost halfway around the final lap. And yeah, this domination from this number 11 Lamborghini has been very, very impressive. And Stefan Messina always fast, but Fromenek as well, having a perfect stint to open up this race.
Yeah, I wonder how much in control they were versus under pressure, because with that 13-second penalty looming, Mauro Calamia really did look as though he could put some pressure on this car to take the victory. They do need to have a quick word with Mechanic Motorsport not to do that again, because that's now 2 races on the bounce where they've made the tiniest indiscretion, which is causing a lot of stress for the drivers, entertainment for us. Now there are the smiles down in Parc Fermé. The gap was small by the end. Stefan Messina was a bit miserable in Zandvoort, I seem to remember, complaining about the fact that the Lamborghini wasn't allowed to be as fast as it could be, but they are well ahead now in the championship, so if it's bad, then they're even better. But I have to say, the display of all the different categories and all the different brands is pretty equal by the looks of things from our point of view. And he has a smile on his face, so once Guinel has a chance to catch up with him, I think we should hear positive words, especially with such a challenge out on circuit and so slippery conditions all the way through. There she is. Stefan sits down to rest, but he won't be allowed to any longer. Guinel, over to you.
Congrats on that 4th win of the season. You're still the most successful driver here at Spa-Francorchamps in the GT4 European Series. It was not an easy stint for you since you had to push till the last lap.
Thank you. No, it was not. I mean, we are struggling a little bit with the setup. Then in the end, I did an outstanding lap. I mean, it was all about either making it or crashing. Fortunately, we did it, and tomorrow we need to score some more points, but we are very happy. And Bronek drove fantastically today. He was leading the pack. This is nice to see.
Did you know that you had a 13 seconds penalty during the race? Because you put on the best lap time in the last lap.
I was aware. That's why the last lap, I have to tell you, in Eau Rouge, even though it was wet, I took it flat. I managed to stay alive, and this is what made the difference.
Congrats, guys.
What a hero. It wasn't that wet in Eau Rouge on the last lap.
Yeah, but, it's a cool story to set at the bar later, isn't it, anyway? And yeah, I think the team probably just need to make sure their pit lane timer or their procedure, at least, for how they get the minimum pit stop time is that bit sharper. They're sailing very close to the wind, aren't they, at the moment?
Need to look at their clock. Maybe their stopwatch isn't quite calibrated correctly. But unlike Zandvoort, where the mistake cost them the victory, today, here at Spa, Racina did enough to hold on to that victory, and that is victory number 4 of the year. The rest of the GT2 field will be scratching their heads as to how to topple this dominance between Bronek, Formignac and Rosina. Let's go back down to Parc Fermé and catch up with the winner of the AM category. Won here last year, won the championship in the end, and Pret once again takes victory in AM.
Congrats, Philippe, 4th win of the season for you, starting from pole position in the AM class. Even if you had a small contact in the first corner, it went well.
Yeah, it's something that's happened sometimes, especially with track condition. I was half push all the first stint, and after when the race is coming, I slow down, I leave past the other category because I have nothing to win. And it was a little bit slippery, but it was an interesting race.
And it's good points for the championship as well as you increase your gap.
For sure, for sure.
Thanks, Philippe. Congrats.
You can imagine inside that Maserati, everything tightening up, his muscles, his body just getting a little bit more nervous as he coaxes his car through the likes of Eau Rouge and Blanchiment, wondering whether it will stick or not on slick tyres on a wet track. Is it going to be okay, or am I going to just understeer wide or slide off? In the end, Pret losing quite a few positions overall, but it didn't affect his AM position. And he is victor in AM for 4 times this year as well. Mixed conditions for race 1 of the GT2 European Series, and it was 3 wide going into turn 1 with Alberto de Martin trying to go round the outside of the silver Mercedes. Gets a little bit of an elbow from Philippe Pret, and unfortunately that was a punctured tyre for the Mercedes 115. A bold move, but ultimately a move that didn't work out. A good start from David Kajaya, who avoided all of that and put his KTM up into 4th position, a new driver to the championship. But Kajaya was nervous in that KTM as the damage showed on the Mercedes coming into the pits for a new tyre, but there was more damage to that car and it made a couple of extra pit stops. This was a bold attempt to pass from Gianluca Giorgi. He did pass, but then race control decided it was not a legitimate pass and he had to give the position back. So pit stop window opened, and those drivers with 2 car drivers swapping to their second pro driver if they're in the Pro-Am category. But conditions were so very hard for the pro drivers in the second half of the race as the sort of light rain rolled across Spa-Francorchamps and wet tyres were considered, but ultimately a 97-second pit stop plus the time gained by being on the wet just wasn't enough, so everyone just had to suck up and deal with it. There was a penalty given to the number 11 leader of the race as others pushed on and missed corners, and in the end Stefan Rosina really had to put the hammer down to hold on to the lead of his race as he was pressured from the dynamic motorsport Maserati. A great battle between Matteo Homola and Daniel Casagna, and on the last lap Homola going around the outside to take 3rd position. Stefan Rosina did enough to hold on to the lead of the race, and race results will suggest the gap was 3.4 seconds at the flag. Race control and the marshals getting themselves ready for Super Pole for GT3 to set the top 20 positions of the 24 hours of Spa, starting about this time tomorrow afternoon as we await our podium ceremonies for the GT2 European Series. The podium here in the F1 pits. There's also a podium in the endurance pits. And you have the opportunity to use either or. And over the last couple of years, at the end of the GT3 race, we've even built our own pits, built our own podium down in front of the DJ stage, and had a really cool atmosphere down there to celebrate the end of the 24 hours. Possibly a podium that both Joe Osborne and I have stood on here. Have you been on this podium?
Yes, I
well
have,
done.
believe it or not. Yeah. What were you here for?
Smart car racing.
What sort of smart car?
Not anything like these boys. There's Matteo Homola. Let's get back on focus. There's David Kajaya. got himself a KTM Crossbow race suit. And after the troubles of their qualifying session, great to see them on that third step with a really bold move from Matto on the final lap to get himself up there. What could have been for Pampania and Mauro Calamia. 3.4 seconds in the end was the gap with corrected time. Formanek and Rossina on the top step of the podium, as I say, for the 4th time this year, as the national anthem rings out. There's your top 3. And David Kijaya and Matto Homola pick up their trophy. That is only the 2nd time that Homola's been on the 3rd step of the podium. Race 1 at Zandvoort. The crash for Laura Calamia was in qualifying, I think, I seem to remember. But they then didn't do very much in the 2nd race at Zandvoort. And Laura is actually the sort of semi-works KTM driver, so a shame to be missing her this weekend, but